Hello and welcome on into the PHFL NFL podcast. Week 17 review. The regular season has finished. We know who's in the playoffs, and the Packers are and the Eagles aren't. See you next time.
Thank you.
Yeah. No. Yes, as always, I'm joined by
That's
Kai.
the best podcast.
That's the best
we've ever done.
That's it. Short, simple, sweet. By less than a minute. Yes, joined as always by Kai and by Mikey. I'm sure you've heard their dulcet tones already. Yeah, I quite enjoyed week 17. It was quite nice. Kai, don't you agree when you didn't have any fantasy football to worry about?
That was the one thing I was looking forward to this week, was just being able to sit down, watch the football and not be stressed out every time somebody scores a touchdown, wondering if it has some sort of effect on
Exactly. I mean, we're not going to touch on the fact that Mikey lost his other fantasy final either and doesn't have any championships this year. We're just going to pass that by.
I have one. We'll get to it. I have one.
Is that fantasy though? Is it really fantasy?
Just get me it, please.
Okay.
Right,
yeah. Well, we'll let you have it. We're recording slightly earlier this week, just to go slightly real world on us for a minute. With the current situation, more regulations are happening and stuff. So I thought cram this in before I can't come to the office. We'll see what happens for future weeks. But let's move on to happier things. But Kai, let's move on to the FC West, because that really didn't mean anything this week, so we'll just get that by. There were still two games that were being played, and two fairly high-scoring games. The Raiders beating the Broncos 32-31, and the Chargers beating the Chiefs 38-21, even though the Chiefs are playing quite a lot of their backups. You were looking at the FC West for us this week. What is your quick-fire analysis of that in games that really didn't matter at all?
It's going to be exciting for years to come. Both those games have just shown that. There's points to be scored. They both just kind of turned into shootouts, to be honest. Like 32-31, obviously, in the Broncos game, and 38-21 in the Chiefs game. So certainly plenty of points. Chargers obviously have since moved on from Anthony Lynn. I'm sure Mikey will be absolutely delighted with that.
He's
so
very happy.
as a present for
long last,
as a present for winning the last four. There you go, mate. Get out of here.
Aye, what they've done is you've given us a worse draft spot, so get out.
So you weren't gaining anything by winning, and you didn't win enough games to get us into the playoffs. So why did you continue to win? Bit bizarre, but yeah. Obviously, the Chiefs, like you say, play a bit of a second-string team. It almost looked as if they showed a wee bit more impetus with a second-string team than they did with their first string.
Almost like the backups had a point to prove.
Yeah. So, yeah, it could be interesting going into the playoffs, obviously, with the Chiefs having a wee week off now. I think that'll probably be the week off they need to turn it around. Herbert has another good game. I know Mikey had said earlier on in the day that Justin Jefferson had locked himself in for Rookie of the Year, but I think Herbert's just gone and jumped back ahead of him.
Yeah, he's now the touchdown record for a rookie passing.
I think it's probably a lock in for Herbert. It would be nice to see someone other than a quarterback win it, but yeah.
if I had to pick, it would be James Robinson again. I've been banging that drum for a long time, but that's not going to happen, especially because I think he missed the last two games as well. So, because obviously they had a lot to play for, even at 1-15 on the season. But I think if Jefferson hadn't, he obviously broke Randy Moss's record of most receiving yards by a Vikings rookie in a season. But he went and beat the NFL record in the Super Bowl era, beat Anquan Boldin's record of receiving yards for a rookie. I just think that's too hard to ignore. In my eyes anyway, too hard to ignore. But again, would not be upset or disappointed if Justin Herbert got it. And if he was to get it, I think both of them thoroughly deserve the award. Obviously, only one can win it. So excited to see who actually gets nominated for it in the first place and who ends up winning it.
I'm just pushing the Herbert boat because I know if he wins it, I get a tenner out of you, Mikey. So.
Oh, big bucks here. £10. Yeah,
I'll go double or quits with you right now. If Jefferson gets it, we're quits, and if Herbert gets it, I'll give you 20.
Fine.
that seems like a fair deal. Aye.
I gain everything out of that, so
I'll take it. I like a gamble. Me, I like
yeah.
it. So
The other,
As for the
I was going to
as for the
say,
Raiders,
Kai, that other game had a bit more of an exciting finish, I would
oh
say.
my gosh, they went right. Okay, so what was it? The first three quarters
by
was
finish, are you talking about Josh Jacobs' drive home, or are you talking about the end of the game?
yeah, that's an entirely different
Is that football
kettle
related?
of
That
fish.
bit is that football related?
Josh Jacobs
I think that maybe pushes into the law department more than the
arrested for a DUI straight after the game. But what I don't understand is this game, I believe, was in Denver, and he got arrested in Las Vegas. So literally, as soon as he got home, he decided, I'm going to have a few
hammered.
pints and drive about the strip in Las Vegas.
Or was he
Yeah.
hammered while playing?
I mean,
Possibly. I think that's what I said. I said to
Could
Kai
have been
last night,
both.
I was like, when we seen the news had been broke that he'd been arrested on a DUI, I was like, look, if I was a Raider, I'd be drinking as well after
aye.
the hope, after the hopes that they had this season, and then to go out like
And how
that.
it
So,
finished.
but anyway,
Aye, the game
was
what
also excellent.
16, 7. So going into the fourth quarter, it was 17-16
Yeah.
to the Raiders, and then they both went and scored 15 points each in the fourth quarter, including a 92-yard Jerry Jeudy touchdown, which all but seals the debate we had last week of who's had a better rookie season, Jeudy or Ruggs.
Yeah.
I think that just ticks the box.
Yeah, because it's not like it
for
was
Jeudy.
just a deep ball and he
No,
caught it, like
he
maybe
made
like a
it.
20-yard pass,
Uh,
and the run was sensational.
He had a good game, to be fair to him. 5 receptions. That 92-yarder helped for a touchdown. Darren Waller again, leading receiver.
I was going to say, do you know who's
for the
good? I
Raiders.
normally say this during the games in our wee group chat. Just you know who's good, and normally the answer is Jonathan Taylor. To be fair, but in this instance, who is good is Darren Waller. There's no comparison there between him and any other receiver in that Raiders team.
And they were obviously listening this week. You know, give Josh Jacobs the ball. Gave
Yep.
him the ball, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like,
Exactly.
he'll win you games.
See what happens when you give your
Um,
good players the ball.
Yep. And then Derek Carr goes and
Is-
has a really bad performance again with 2 interceptions as well. But we'll just skirt over that idea. You know I don't like him.
Yeah.
Is Darren Waller, before this season started, the big three in terms of tight ends were Kelsey, Kittle, and Mark Andrews, and there was talks about maybe Zach Ertz should have been in that top three discussion. I think Andrews and Ertz were probably, if you count that as the 4. Going into next season, where do you see Darren Waller in that picture?
In the top 3.
Because of recency bias, I think he'll be second. I think people will forget
Yeah.
quite how good Kittle
Kittle's
is.
injury, maybe.
Yeah, I think they'll push
Yeah,
Kittle
I
a
mean,
little bit further.
Kittle will get to that as well, but Kittle's came back and had 2 very strong games. Not just in terms of receptions and yards. He's as he always has been, a phenomenal blocking tight end as well. Gives everything to the cause. But yeah, I would say Darren Waller will be a fantasy asset next season, to say the least, as if he hasn't been over the last 2 seasons as well.
I'm not sure how early tight ends are going to get drafted this coming season. I know that sounds strange because there's such elite tight ends this year. But going into next year, obviously you've got Kelsey, Kittle, Waller here. I still think Andrews is very good. Compared to some other tight ends, he gets points. Jonnu Smith scored lots of points, but the players I'm really looking forward to are players like Noah Fant, Hawkinson, Irv Smith. I think they're going to step up, especially
Logan Thomas.
Logan Thomas, yeah, especially with the new offense in Detroit now that Patricia's not there. I feel as if they're throwing the ball more, a bit more expansive. I think there's actually going to be quite a lot of high scoring tight ends looking in the fantasy aspect.
I think as well, people will probably sleep on Zach Ertz. If he goes to another team, I think there's a chance he then goes with a point to prove, because he's obviously not had anything like a season this year. He's been injured. There's been so much change in Philadelphia in terms of quarterbacks playing poorly. So I think it's hard to write Zach Ertz out the picture altogether. But like you say, there are plenty.
I was going to say, I haven't even mentioned Hayden Hurst or any of the ones in Tampa Bay.
Also
Tunyon.
a certain There's also a certain Kyle Pitts playing for the Florida Gators just now, who looks to be a first-round pick, potentially a top 15 pick.
Yeah.
Depending on who he goes to, if he's going to a potent offense, it could be another dangerous fantasy player.
I also haven't
for him this
mentioned
season.
Mike Goseki. He scores lots of touchdowns for a tight end, doesn't he? I mean, this is...
Yeah.
Oh, it's exciting.
See, the thing is, if you obviously want one of the big three, if we call the big three Kelsey, Kittle, Waller, right? They're the guys that you know week in, week out, they will score you a lot of points. But there is massive upside to almost every other tight end in the league.
Yep, I wouldn't have said that at the start of this season, but next season I'm advocating that 100%.
Yeah.
Yes, I totally agree. Where do we want to go now?
I think that tells you all you need to know about how pointless that division was, that we spent more time talking about tight ends.
Fantasy tight ends, exactly. What division do you want to move on to now? What do we want to talk about? Mikey, I'll let Mikey pick a division. On you go.
Oh really? And we just had an AFC team. Are we switching over to an NFC team?
It's up to you.
Now,
You decide. You take control.
I'll take the AFC East.
The AFC East, where we had the Dolphins playing against the Bills and the Jets playing against the Patriots. The Patriots won 28 points to 14 over the Jets. Cam Newton actually deciding to play football this week compared to some weeks. And the Bills, I think it would be fair to describe that as an annihilation. 56 points to 26 over the Dolphins.
I disagree. I think you need to find a word that's more aggressive than annihilation. That's when when you say an annihilation is an understatement. That sums up the Bills' performance this week.
This is a PC podcast, remember, Mikey?
On the Jets game, I actually thought although there was nothing to play for, the Jets Patriots game was actually quite fun at times. Good. I thought Darnold had a relatively good game. I know he threw 2 picks, but he was making some. I think it's more he was making this game had more fun plays than it was high quality, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Darnold did make some good throws, but he also made some bad ones. The 3 quarterbacks that played today, Sam Darnold, Cam Newton, and Jacoby Myers, all played really well this week. But, if I was to pick one person, judging on, I don't know, let's say quarterback rating, Jacoby Myers, 158.3, 1 for 1, 19 yards for a touchdown to Cam Newton on a flea flicker. Kai mentioned this to me the other night as well. I think Cam Newton used to coach Jacoby Myers in Little League or something like that.
It was like a 7v7 league or something like that.
Yeah, a summer league. And Jacoby Myers was the quarterback to the team that Cam Newton coached. So kind of went full circle that Cam Newton caught a pass from him in the NFL. That's pretty cool. And, on the PHFL podcast, we all love a trick play. Absolutely love a trick play. We could probably do a podcast just talking about the trick plays of the season. So, yeah, as we said, nothing to play for. Looked quite tight until the fourth quarter when the Patriots won the fourth quarter 14-0. But yeah, a fun game. But we'll get obviously to the Bills and Dolphins game. Just a shame. I know we've said in previous podcasts, even if the Dolphins didn't make the playoffs, they weren't meant to be there this season. It was a complete shock that they were even fighting for it this season. Obviously, they won't see it that way. They'll be absolutely gutted. But this Buffalo team, I thought we'd reached the apex of us talking about how good they were, and the fact that we're about to talk about how good their backups were. That McKenzie went for 65 yards and 2 scores. The whole team in general was just superb. It was like, oh, we're going to take our starters off. Well, we're going to destroy you with our backup team. I honestly think that backup team would maybe go 3-13 again and probably beat the Jets and the Jags this season.
How long was Josh Allen actually on the field for, by the way?
Well, he threw for 224 yards and 3 touchdowns, but I
don't think he was on after halftime.
No, I think they maybe took him off mid-third quarter, possibly. I think they scored early in the third quarter.
No, he didn't come out. I'm looking at the play-by-play for the third quarter, and the first play for the Bills is Barkley hit quarterback.
Yep. So Josh Allen did that in one half.
So I know we spoke about the MVP race. We'll obviously get to another person who, as of last night, is now head head and shoulders above the rest in terms of odds.
Yeah, Vegas
betting
believes
odds.
he's going to get
But
it.
one thing we didn't speak about last week is because it hadn't happened last week, and obviously we've had all these games, so it's been a bit crazy. We said that it would be a Bills Packers Super Bowl for the last 2 weeks, I believe. And in between this podcast and our last episode, Packers tackle, that was almost a tongue twister.
Yeah.
Packers tackle David Bakhtiari is now out for the rest of the season. Which I said to you guys, besides Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, I think that's the biggest loss this team could have. I'm now picking the Bills to win the Super Bowl, I think. I know we'll get to the Packers game and they impress without him, but was that an outline?
Not really, no, not that island.
I've beat you to it. I said it week 3, so
I think that I've been saying Packers all season, and I'm not just saying that because I support them, and I think I wasn't crazy for saying that all season, but I think this Bakhtiari loss coming against elite pass rushers is going to be so bad for the Packers going into the playoffs. I know they've got a week's rest and we can try things with different tackles, but the Bills have given me no reason to believe that they've put up 56 points against a team that was almost going to make the playoffs in such a competitive AFC. Right now, I can't see anybody else. Maybe that's because we didn't see Mahomes and co this week and we won't see them next week, but yeah, I can't see past the Bills at the moment due to that Bakhtiari injury for the Packers.
You know who's going to be a scary player next season is
Can you talk about Jonathan Taylor one more time?
No.
I'm
He was scary this season. For next year, especially in this Bills team, obviously we know Diggs the number 1 receiver, but see Davis, he's a rookie receiver, isn't he? Yeah. He's going to be good next year. He had 2 catches for 107 yards and a touchdown.
He seems to be like obviously you've got Cole Beasley as well, so like it's a similar scenario where right if Diggs isn't open, I'll throw to Beasley. If Beasley isn't open, I can throw to Davis, and actually he's more than capable, and he's shown it a number of times this season. And then you mix in that boy Isaiah McKenzie as well.
Aye. Dawson Knox at tight end.
Yeah,
another tight end that I think could be again another big play next season. The more that Josh Allen, Dawson Knox relationship grows, I can see him being a red zone threat next season yet again. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. And seeing the other game in this division, talking about tight ends again, Chris Herndon. I mean, he was a leading receiver for the Jets. I mean, this will be exciting.
I don't know if I'd said to you, Adam, but obviously I had the discussion with Mikey before we were making our draft for the redraft league this year. Chris Herndon was very much in my vision. I had him on my list of potential sleepers for the year. And I'm kind of glad I didn't pick him up from the basis of the Jets being absolute garbage for 14 weeks.
Yeah.
But it looks like if the Jets keep a hold of Sam Darnold and decide to stick with him, looks like that could be a good relationship between the two of them. Looks like they've got a good understanding together, and he could potentially be one for next season. To stick with that game, the other thing was it was almost like an addition for another team for Cam Newton. He's obviously probably under the impression that he won't be at the Patriots next year. I think a lot of people are under the impression he won't be, but 21 of 30 for 242 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then obviously 79 yards rushing as well. It was a good Cam Newton performance, and I think it was his way of going, look, I'm still relevant. Like, if somebody wants me, I'm still here. Whether that be at the Patriots by some minor miracle, or whether it be elsewhere, I think that was his way of bowing out.
Yes, I don't think it will be at the Patriots.
They've enjoyed Cam Newton's relationship, and they feel it has went okay. Obviously, they've not made the playoffs, and that's what they were looking for. But I don't think there's any hard feelings between the Patriots and Cam Newton. But it looks like for definite they're going to move on. But one player I just want to touch on in this division that I think would be a criminal injustice if he wasn't voted the Defensive Player of the Year is Xavier Howard. I think he got 1 touchdown this week again, and it was a phenomenal toe drag. I think they call it toe drag swag on the line for the interception. 10 on the season, and the first person to tally that many since Antonio Cromartie in 2007. I just think, I don't know if it's because I love defensive backs more than any defensive position, but if you're getting 10 interceptions on a season, I'm 100% endorsing him for Defensive Player of the Year. I think it would be horrific if he wasn't to get it.
I don't think we could
Unless you
complain.
disagree
I
with
don't
that.
think we could complain if he does get it, could we?
No. I don't think you could complain
think
if anyone on that Dolphins defensive unit got it, to be fair, because they've been frightening at times this season. But yeah,
Every game with a takeaway this year.
Aye, stupid.
That's Brian Flores for you.
Obviously, we'll probably have that as a wee special episode. As obviously our awards for the year.
Yes, those very important
yeah.
awards, that people will definitely take notice of.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like who had the worst shout of the year between Kai, Adam, and Mikey?
Yeah, I had quite a few, I think, that we won't talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on
Move
from
on.
the AFC East. Exactly. Well done to the Bills getting into the playoffs. Hard lines to the Dolphins, who miss out just. And that's because in the AFC South, both the Colts and the Titans won, and they got in at the expense of the Dolphins. They got into the playoffs. The Colts beating the Jags 28 points to 14, and the Titans just about beating the Texans 41 points to 38. The Titans end up winning the division, which gives them a lovely, easy home matchup against the Ravens, and the Colts obviously get the kind of wild card spot, which takes them away to the Bills. So to be honest, either way, it wasn't exactly.
Either way, you were screwed.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly going to be an easy game.
Just shows how stacked this AFC is.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I must say, the Colts did not look great in that game against the Jags. Running, they did. That's boy Jonathan Taylor. I don't know if anyone knows much about him, but he's quite good.
You've not mentioned him.
No, he's quite good at running the ball. However,
253 rushing yards.
Aye, that's what I said, wasn't it? Quite good at running the ball. That's
That's how much Adam loves him, that he thinks there's more in the tank from Jonathan Taylor than a 253-yard performance.
I mean, see, when you look at that for fantasy points, that's only 37 points plus his catch. So it's not even that good a game. 38 points. So it's
for a rookie anyway.
The fact that he had 30 touches and then the next was Naeem Hines with 2.
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. This is what I've said the whole season. I've said give this boy the ball, and they gave him 30 attempts this week, and that's what he did.
The thing as well is that I quite like Naeem Hines, and I think he is a very good complementary running back to Jonathan Taylor, in the same way that Adam's other super fandom
Tony Gibson.
for Antonio Gibson. I like JD McKissick as well. Like I like those partnerships. And yeah, Jonathan Taylor looks to be a cornerstone in this league for years to come. 100%.
Yes, very much so, and I'm very appreciative that he's on my dynasty team. You know who is not on my dynasty team because he's very old? Is Philip Rivers, and he kind of was showing, I think, a bit of his age in this, and he wasn't great.
Yeah.
17 completions, 164 yards, a TD, and an INT. I think the Colts will move on from him. He's only got the 1 year contract, doesn't he? So I think they'll definitely be moving on from him. I think both their quarterbacks are out of contract, both him and Jacoby Brissett. Joby Brissett. I think both of them don't have a contract for next year. So I think they'll be moving on.
I think it's very much
depending
very
on
much.
how.
I was just gonna say, I think it's very much anticipated that if Rivers doesn't go back to Indianapolis, that he might retire.
I
think depending on how far do the Colts need to get this season for them to stick with Philip Rivers, or is it just a case of doesn't matter?
I don't think they do.
No, I think they were taking him as a stopgap for somebody else, which is why they only give him a 1 year deal.
If they were to win the Super Bowl, Philip Rivers would just retire right there and then. And I think if they don't reach the Super Bowl, the Colts are going to think, who can we bring in that can get us to the Super Bowl?
If they reach the Super Bowl, give him like a knighthood or something like that, because he will have pulled off a miracle.
No, can I tell you, if they reach the Super Bowl, it will not be because of Rivers.
No,
it'll be because of that defense and that running game. Yeah. It would be nothing to do with Rivers.
I feel like for the first half of the season, the Colts were, and I don't know, I'd maybe put this down to Philip Rivers, but they were a bit absent in the pass game. And over the second half of the season, Michael Pittman, T.Y. Hilton, Doyle as well have just become monsters in that passing game. Don't really know what's happened because they're still running the ball a lot, and I think that's maybe opening gaps for the likes of Pittman and T.Y. Hilton. But I think I've said this on previous podcasts. I'm loving Michael Pittman this year. I didn't know much about him coming out of college, but he showed that he could be a big player on this team. And I know there's talks about Carson Wentz coming to this team, and I know he's had a terrible season, but if you've got players like him and T.Y. Hilton and Jonathan Taylor in your team, and one of the best defensive lines in the league, obviously with Pancakes Nelson, sky's the limit for this team if Carson Wentz can really start to find the groove again.
Yeah, if Wentz goes here, I think he'll be successful because obviously Frank Reich, when he was the OC at Philadelphia, and that's when Wentz had his good play there, and also, as you pointed out, Mikey, a really good offensive line at this team. And if Wentz is not under pressure, he will not hold on to the ball and be sacked all the time, which seems to be what he does, and he'll have time to pass the ball.
He will. He'll just hold on to the ball and keep holding on to it, and someone will be open, and he'll keep holding on to it, and then he'll throw it 40 yards past
That
him.
will be a podcast for another time when we talk about possible off-season moves.
It'll just be me talking about Carson Wentz for an hour.
I'll jump on the other side of the ball quickly because the Jacksonville Jaguars don't mean anything apart from the fact that I think this team might actually be quite good with Trevor Lawrence as quarterback. And I'll just move on from that.
Doug Marrone as their coach, and
obviously.
Right, let's wipe the slate totally clean and start again.
They're looking for new GM, new head coach. They've got 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, 11 picks in total. They've got cap space. I wish they'd held on to a few defensive players. I know in order to get that second first-round pick, they had to get rid of Ramsey, but there was a team there that got into the AFC Championship, and it was a phenomenally good defensive unit. I know if they had still had that defensive unit, they probably wouldn't be picking for Trevor Lawrence just now. So it's that's the way it works. But James Robinson, Keelan Cole, Laviska Shenault, Chark, put Trevor Lawrence in the mix with that. It's going to be fun to watch again next season. I think this season has been phenomenal, and I just think now the narratives going into next season is just going to make it 10 times better. Plus, hopefully, the fans will be back as well.
Yes, I agree. I think the AFC South, historically has kind of been that division when it hasn't really been the strongest typically. You maybe have a good team in it, but the division as a whole hasn't been that strong. I think it could be quite a strong division in the future years with the players that are going into it. And one of those reasons is because of King Henry playing there at the Tennessee Titans. In fact, that whole Titans team, 34 attempts he had. I think he averages something like 25. Now, looking at the number of attempts he's had all season, he's averaging in the 20 attempts a game, which is ridiculous. 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, obviously breaking 2,000 yards for the season rushing, which, Mikey, you talk about this, Mikey, because you like King Henry so much. He's helped you come runner-up in a lot of your fantasy leagues.
If someone came up to Derrick Henry at the end of the game and was like, "We're playing another 4 quarters," he'd be like, "Right, let's go, let's do this. I'm going to smash through everyone." I've seen something just before the podcast, and I'm so glad that I did. So the rushing yards for the season, I'm just going to kind of say them roughly. Derrick Henry at number 1 with just over 2,000. Dalvin Cook at about 1,500. Jonathan Taylor, 1,100.
My boy JT.
Aaron Jones, 1,100. So that's the top 4. And in 5th place, if Derrick Henry only played after half time, he'd have 1,000 yards rushing.
Oh my
goodness me!
So if you took him out from top spot and only played him in the second half of games, he would have been the 4th highest rushing player in the league.
That's ridiculous.
He does tend to put the team in his back in the second half.
Yeah, and we said if this, I know obviously we'll talk about the game as well because they scored it was a phenomenal game actually. I think this was one of the best games of the week. But if the game went to overtime, I think we all said it just always seems that Derrick Henry's the one that pulls them through in overtime. It's happened time and time again. That there's no words to describe this guy. I think offensive player of the year. Hopefully he deserves it. I think he's in terms of the MVP odds. There's 5 players in the conversation in terms of the odds, and he's the only non-quarterback, which just shows what a monster season that he's had. there's nothing else really to describe him. I hope he has a great postseason and post-regular season in the playoffs, and we'll see what happens. But when I think what he said is it Titans Ravens in the next round of the playoffs.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
What
the
a
Ravens,
game.
as we'll get to, like to rush, and Derrick Henry likes to rush as well. And then another thing, sorry, just before we move on to the games, because I just love talking about Derrick Henry. One thing that they've got so well thought out is the Ryan Tannehill rushing touchdowns from within the 5-yard line.
Yeah.
Because the defensive unit just puts all their focus on Derrick Henry, and why wouldn't you? And it just gives Tannehill so much space just to nick in round the corner. That's a play that I think we'll see a lot in the playoffs. Just fair play, Derrick Henry. You are rightfully entitled the king.
Yes, I must say it was a very, very exciting game because for a little while we thought possibly the Titans weren't going to win this division because the Texans made a bit of a game of it. Even coming right into the end of the fourth quarter, the Texans were up 4 points. Tannehill got his 5-yard run, as you mentioned, Mikey, just after the 2-minute warning, which put the Titans up by 3 points. And then the Texans go up the other end and score a field goal, and there's 18 seconds on the clock, and you go, all right, well, this is going to overtime, isn't it? Step up, Ryan Tannehill and A.J. Brown.
Bang.
Boom. Huge pass, and a lovely field goal as time expires for the Titans to win that game. I must say, I was very, very happy to be watching the AFC South this week.
Yeah, I think it was like who could be the better quarterback here? I know Ryan Tannehill maybe didn't have the best, the most explosive passing game, but he's a very, like Mikey mentioned, he's very versatile just now. Obviously, with the threat of Derrick Henry, he can sneak in and get the touchdowns.
Yeah.
In the 5-yard zone. 5-yard zone.
5-yard zone. That's a new phrase.
That's a new one.
Aye.
Within the 5-yard line is what I tried to say there.
Is a 5-yard zone the gold zone? If it's the red zone
gold
inside
zone.
the 20, is it the gold zone?
But then on the other side of the ball, like Deshaun Watson, who I really feel for this season because he's been like a diamond in the mud for that Texans team. 28 completions, 365 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, he's so good. He's so good.
The Texans are going to waste him, aren't they?
Yeah. He's going to waste some of the best years of his career playing in that team. Now I know obviously they've to get a couple of players back. That took me a while to get.
That did take you a long time.
They've to get a couple of players back. Obviously, Will.
I thought you were going to be sick there. The way your face was when you were trying to think. I thought you were just about to throw up onto your microphone.
Will Fuller's to come back from his being a naughty boy.
No, he's not. He's going to free agency, isn't he?
Oh, yep. Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Yep. Maybe he won't come back.
They're getting even less and less, and they've got the number 3 pick though in the draft, don't they?
Oh no, that's right. The Dolphins have that one.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, they did that trade.
And Brandon Cooks as well loves to change teams. So
so Brandon Cooks will probably be away. So Deshaun Watson will be throwing the ball to himself. Just throw it really high in the air.
No, who they could do with? They could do with this guy. I don't know if you heard it. He's called DeAndre Hopkins. He's quite a good wide receiver.
Yeah, but they won that trade.
Oh yeah, they did win that trade. I mean, look at those statistics for David Johnson this week: 84 rushing yards and a touchdown. Through the air, 36 receiving yards.
Yeah. If you're Deshaun Watson, you must be going, what on earth do I need to do here? Like, somebody give me some help. I know Brandon Cooks obviously had 166 yards and 2 touchdowns there, but can't even rely on him all season.
My issue with Deshaun Watson this season was I thought that he was too dependent on DeAndre Hopkins, and I think that's a wrong statement. I think the Texans were too dependent on DeAndre Hopkins because I would never have thought at any point this season Deshaun Watson would have won the passing yards title this season. He's came out of nowhere and he's won it. He's finished on 4.823, 100 yards more than Mahomes. So it's not like he's missing that maybe the red zone target, but his passing yards 365 this week has been phenomenal. And Brandon Cooks has had a 1,000-yard season, and he's had it for 4 teams now. I think he's the first player in NFL history. And I totally forgot that he played for the New Orleans Saints. I knew that he played with the Patriots, and then got to a Super Bowl and lost. Then went to the Rams and got to a Super Bowl and lost to the Patriots. And then went to the Texans. That's why I thought the Texans would make the Super Bowl this year, just because of that stat alone.
And
but 4,000 yards. he's had 1,000-yard receiving years on 4 different teams. He's not the answer, obviously. I think if they had the 3rd pick in the draft, they would have been maybe looking for Jamar Chase or Devonta Smith, but they don't have that now. So who knows what's going to happen? I think, Adam, you said that this division looks like it could become very competitive in the next few years. I'm worried that the Texans, and more importantly, Deshaun Watson, will just fall by the wayside.
Yeah, excluding Texans. I meant to put that little asterisk beside my statement.
Yeah. I just thought just obviously you mentioned they didn't have the 3rd pick overall. I was like, I'll have a look and see what they've got. They've not got a pick in the first 2 rounds of the draft.
No, they're picking at like 60 something, aren't they?
So they've got a 3rd round pick, 2 4th rounders, a 5th, 3 6th round picks, and a 7th.
Yeah.
If you can improve a roster with those picks, fair play, but I can't see it.
I'm gonna lay out a statement in the hopes that someone on the Houston Texans is listening. I know somebody who won a championship with some phenomenal late round picks. So Houston Texans, if you are listening, Kai Skier is available for hire as your GM.
I'll pick your late rounds.
You don't need to hire him. Just maybe give him a chance. Just give him an interview at least on the Zoom call. See how you feel. Because Stephon Diggs in the 7th round, I think Kai's going to put that in his CV/resume.
That's going on my CV.
Yeah.
Not for jobs in any way related to the NFL.
To be fair,
a huge off season for the Texans is required, because some teams can do nothing in the later rounds, but some teams can really find diamonds. So again, it's going to be crucial this season for the Texans, because they could really fall to last place for the next couple of years in this conference. This division.
They need a good free agency. But I think the problem is that they're spending quite a lot of money on Cook. So I think he's got quite a big contract, doesn't he? And that's one of the reasons that the Rams traded him. So
obviously they gave Deshaun Watson a huge contract. I don't think their cap space is overly good, to be honest.
Overly good. I like that analysis.
Overly good.
Overly
good. That's journalism at its finest.
Expert analysis from the PHFL podcast there. But yes, they ruined one of my bets for this year. I had a bet on all the 8 division winners, and the Texans were my pick for this division, and that was very wrong, I think would be the fair statement to put on that. So I won't be putting that bet on for them again next year. Let's move on to our last AFC division to talk about, and it was the one that probably had the most interest in regards to looking at the playoffs. It was the AFC North. You had 2 games. You had the backups for the Pittsburgh Steelers losing 22 points, 24 against the Browns, just 2 points in it. And the Ravens decided, we're going to go and rush for 400 rushing yards against the Bengals, and won the game 38-3. I'm just going to see if I can say that phrase again. 400 rushing yards for a team.
That was an NFL record, was it not? Never been done before in a game.
400 rushing? I don't have anything else to say. That's my analysis for that.
And also 7 people contributed to that.
Aye.
7 people contributed to that. That's madness. Like, I think Gus Edwards had a 72-yard long touchdown rush. But even taking that away, the stats, he would have had roughly about 90 yards still without that 72-yard. Lamar Jackson almost at 100. Gus Edwards 60. Mark Ingram kind of chipping out of nowhere today. We've seen a lot of him this week. 39 yards. Duvernay 22. Justice Hill and Huntley, the backup quarterback. Just crazy. I don't think I've ever seen. I'm going to check that while you continue this, but I don't think there's ever been more.
I'm just going to say a little thing. As a player who drafted in the middle rounds Hollywood Brown for his fantasy team, it was nice of him in week 17, when it didn't mean anything, for him to actually have a good fantasy week with his 5 receptions, 41 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, it's also nice that finally I'm seeing some very promising signs from our dynasty trade, Adam, with J.K. Dobbins. If you can keep up those 160-yard, 2-touchdown days, I will be very, very happy.
Yeah, I'm slightly worried about that trade now. Looking behind the curtain, I got Saquon Barkley, obviously with him being injured this year. I gave away two first round picks in Dobbins, and I got a third or a second off you, I think, didn't I?
I think you gave me 2 first rounders and Dobbins for a Saquon Barkley and a second.
Yeah. To be honest, I thought I was going to win that trade. I thought that they might be still using this by committee here for the Ravens. But, Mikey's got his stat.
The New York Giants have the most rushing yards by a team in a single game with 423 yards versus the Baltimore Colts in November 19th, 1950. So I think possibly in the Super Bowl era, this is the record.
Yes.
But in terms of American football history, it was this one.
Well, we've turned into a fairly pass-heavy league over the last few years, so it's no surprise that this is a surprising stat, I suppose. No surprise, it's a surprising stat.
Actually, no, I stand corrected. In the Super Bowl era, guess what team has the most rushing yards for 407, so 3 more.
Oh, come on. They could have run a little bit more if they knew they had to beat that.
Surely somebody in the sidelines going, right, 3 more. Come on, Lamar.
Think about the team that put up 3 points against the team that rushed for 404 yards.
It wasn't the Bengals, was it?
No way.
The Bengals in 2000 rushed for 407 yards.
In 2000 and 2000.
In 2000 and 2000. We'll still be in lockdown by then. Regardless, just crazy stats from the Ravens, just unbelievable.
I know that's impressive, but see what's more impressive was that Brandon Allen performance. That was a thing of beauty.
Six completions
for 48 yards and 2 interceptions.
And he wasn't even dropped. He was kept on the whole time.
Apparently they were trying to wheel Joe Burrow out and try and put him under centre because it was that bad.
Just put him on a cart or something and get him to throw the ball. That was probably one of the worst performances from a team I've ever seen. The Bengals were just... I know they had nothing to play for, but none of them looked bothered by anything.
Scott Hansen on NFL Red Zone, he had a phrase for it. Was it something to do with you're already thinking about your Bahamas holiday or whatever, your beach holiday. So I think a lot of the Bengals' minds were thinking about those hammocks and
AJ Green was targeted 6 times for no receptions. Do you think he was just going, get away from me?
Now, my question is, how good were those targets, though? Like, it calls itself a target, but quite how close was it? Because some of them weren't anywhere near him.
Aye.
Sometimes throws, like when they throw them away, if there's someone near the direction that the ball was thrown out of bounds, it counts as a target. But yeah, a lost season for the Bengals because of the Joe Burrow injury. I really hope he comes back.
I think it was a story of what could have been at times.
Yeah, I mean, even saying that, they weren't performing massively well at the time.
No,
went down, but
I'm not meaning like a Super Bowl-esque run, but they could have had a slightly better record if Burrow's in. I think they at least have a better outlook.
A top 5 pick, I'm sure. So,
I say that as if the Eagles didn't finish with the same record as them.
Yeah, the exact same because of the tie. Yeah,
because of the tie.
But yeah, I think if they can try and shore up that offensive line, and Burrow gets back to full health, you've again, as we said, kind of about the Jags as well. There's young pieces there that could hopefully push them into the playoffs over the coming years.
Yes, this is a very, very exciting division for years to come. And you know, a team who finally got in those playoffs for the first time in 18 years. Those Cleveland Browns. Well done to you, Sean. Your team that you support finally got to the playoffs. The longest active drought is over after their 24-22 win over the Steelers.
I know it's been a tough 18 years for Sean. Like, after the full 18 years have been tough for Sean. He's been wanting them for full 18 years. I think he supported them for the last maybe 2 years or something like that, 2 or 3 years. So, but yes, fair enough, Sean. You picked them because they were the worst team in the league. And now they're in the playoffs. So congratulations to Browns fans for enduring that longest playoff drought, active playoff drought.
You know what the Browns had to endure was this game, the Browns fans did, because they should have won this game by more when they didn't have Big Ben under centre for the Steelers, and they only won by 2 points in the end. Is this perhaps bad for the Browns in terms of they've got the playoff game is against the Steelers next week, and they only just beat the Steelers with their backup QB?
think they probably.
I think it was maybe a bit of nerves as well.
Yeah.
But I said as soon as this game finished to Ahan, who is a Steelers fan, my friend Ahan, I said, I think the Browns are going to win this playoff game. I think now that they're in the playoffs and that monkey's off their back, I think they're going to come out swinging. And I think, I don't know, didn't know the injury list, but I think they still had a few players missing because of the COVID situation. I am very much looking forward to this game, and I don't think the Steelers have got it in them. I think they've struggled for too long, and the Browns are now got all the momentum with them in the playoffs for the first time in 18 years. I will get to our predictions again at some point, but I'm taking the Browns in this game in the playoffs.
I don't know.
We'll get to it at the end of the episode. You've got time to think about it.
I still think that the Steelers might have too much for them. I think a very, very playoff experienced Big Ben, as much as he's not been that great this season, I think he just knows the playoffs really well, and he knows the kind of games you need to play. And I think if they play properly, as we said last week, don't run the flipping ball. Use the receivers you've got, wee chunk plays, get it up the field. I think the Steelers might end up picking the Browns off here. But either way, like you say, it will be exciting.
Look at those Steelers receivers actually catching balls and not dropping them. That helps. So hopefully they do that with Big Ben for the Steelers' sake. So that left three.
Sorry, but Claypool 100 yards receiving and a touchdown. He kind of middled towards probably towards the back end of the season. But again, another good weapon and another great wide receiver rookie that's came out of this class.
Steelers are always good at drafting wide receivers. Especially in the kind of middle rounds, aren't they? Every year they seem to draft one, so they do well. So that left three teams from that AFC North qualifying. Qualifying? That's not the phrase, is it? Progressing to the playoffs. Obviously, the new extended playoff format means that they now have 7 from each division. So does that mean
from each division?
7 from
you
each
said that last week.
I said that last week. That's 7 from each conference. My mind is not working.
There's only 4 in a division, Adam.
The Packers get in 4 times. That's how it works, isn't it?
The Bills reserve team makes the playoffs.
I tell you,
they would probably be better than some of the teams in the NFL.
But that means, obviously, does that mean that the best division in the AFC is the AFC North? Or they have 3 of the 7 teams in it? Is that how it works, isn't it?
I would say it's probably
yeah. And you look at the records as well. They're 100% the best division in football this year.
There we go.
I tell you, they have one of the teams with the most. Now that we've mentioned the full conference, I would say the 2 teams that you worry about going into the playoffs are the Bills and the Ravens on momentum.
Yep.
I would say
I agree with momentum.
They are absolutely on.
You're worried about them getting eliminated there. I was like,
no.
Been banging the Bills drum for months, and now you're saying
and
that
I will
go
bang it further.
Exit.
I will keep banging it. But no, I would say on momentum.
Now they're in the playoffs, they're going to get eliminated.
I would say the 2 of them will probably be the 2 teams that people fear the most. Now, obviously, like we said, we'll come on to the predictions come the end, but I think the Bills will probably annihilate the Colts. And the Ravens-Titans game will be good. I think if the Titans play the same way they played there, I think they'll probably struggle. But, again, it's going to be tasty.
It is indeed. And you know what's going to be also tasty as well is the NFC, because all of the football is exciting to watch. Maybe not all of the games this week.
Yeah.
But what we'll do is we'll start with, I'm trying to pick what division meant the least probably. I'll go with the NFC South. I was having a look at that one. The Saints and the Bucks had already confirmed they were in the playoffs. It was just a discussion about where they were going to go. It was almost confirmed before this game. The Bucks would get the 5 seed, and they did get it with a 44-27 win over the Falcons. It's the first time, I don't know if you knew this statistic, Mikey, the first time in Tampa Bay Buccaneer history that they've scored 40 points in 2 consecutive games.
I know Jameis Winston had his issues over the years, but you would have thought that the amount that he throws, he would have put up a few big numbers on back-to-back games.
You'd have thought so.
I did not know that. That is a mad stat.
That's the first time the Bucks have had 2 40 points games back to back. And Tom Brady to thank for that, but they beat the Falcons 44-27, and the Saints kind of demolished the Panthers 33 points to 7. And I hope, I think the Saints, could they have got one seed if results went their way, or maybe I can't quite remember how it was all working.
In a weird way, they were still in contention, but it would have taken a lot.
But yeah, some good, some high scoring games for me to have a look at. They are quickly touching on the New Orleans Saints. They're going to be good for the playoffs, even though they had no Kamara running back. They had no Latavius Murray. Half the running back room all were close contact traces and all that. Ty Montgomery, former Packer wide receiver, I should say, turned running back. 18 attempts, 105 yards. Just shows you that anybody, I suppose, can run in that team. Is Alvin Kamara just not that good? Is that the narrative?
I think he's overrated, doesn't he?
Yeah, anyone can do it.
Nah.
I mean, you're only as good as your last performance, so I don't really rate him.
No, exactly.
I don't think he's living up to expectations, to be honest.
Yeah.
And with
what?
On you go, Mikey.
Something about the Saints. We've not really been in on them at all this season, but I mean, I'm just looking at this game and obviously their last game as well, and they've been without Michael Thomas for quite a while. I think they have, because I think the Bills were the dark horse at the start of the season to win the Super Bowl. They were a team that were going to make the playoffs, but now they became a legit Super Bowl contender. I think the Saints have fallen from Super Bowl contender to dark horse, but if you've got Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara coming back and a healthy Drew Brees, and you've got weapons like Taysom Hill as well, and their D is still good, they're a turnover machine as well. I'd be
just a bit this week.
What?
I said just a bit this week, only the 5 interceptions.
Yeah. I think if you're a team in the NFC, you do not want to play. If I'm being completely honest, even as a Packers fan saying this, I don't want to play Tom Brady or Drew Brees in the playoffs. They're the two teams I want to avoid.
No, I don't either.
No, especially considering the Saints are going up against the Bears, who obviously I'll come on to at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Emmanuel Sanders, I think he needed 8 receptions to get a contract goal, so he got a lot of money as a bonus.
I think when he got the 8th, he was. I've never seen a man celebrate a very mediocre catch before.
Yeah.
I think it was 500,000 or something.
Yeah.
I think it was like, even if it was a reception for minus yards, he would have been like, yes, come on.
Yeah.
I think it was just the reception he needed, wasn't it?
Running to the end zone, into the camera just himself.
$500,000, yeah.
The one thing, like, obviously there was a lot going on this week and there was a lot of more important things, but just in the aftermath of it and looking at it now, what do the Panthers do? I think they've been one of the most middle-of-the-road, uninteresting teams ever this year. Now, I think you can attribute that very much to the fact that their star player has played, 3 games?
Yeah.
But they just don't seem to have anything else in the locker.
I think the answer is draft a QB.
Yeah. Teddy Bridgewater's been all right. I kind of feel sorry, but I think they need to probably. Excuse me. We need to be looking to get someone new.
The schedules have already been dropped for next season. We spoke about the Packers and the Eagles schedules, but the Panthers also have a difficult schedule as well. And I just skimming over it when I looked at it, I was like 4 or 5 wins with the current team that they've got. 4 or 5 wins maybe, and that's a worry. They've brought in this new GM as well.
Yeah.
To hopefully change the fortunes and maybe draft a quarterback. I'm not sure, but I think they're a team in dire straits just now because you're not getting a top 3 pick. You're not challenging for the playoffs. You're just kind of there and you're not doing anything. And that's if I was a fan of a team, I would rather see us get draft capital than just be a middle of the road team. If I'm completely honest. So again, I don't know how many times I'm going to say it in this podcast and probably for the coming weeks and months until the next season. This off season is huge for the Panthers as well. They're at a fork in the road and they need to decide what avenue they want to head down in terms of quarterback, in terms of overall team depth, talent, cap space, you name it.
They have a chance. Sorry, Kai, but they have a chance to be the dominant team in this division because Tom Brady's getting to retirement, Drew Brees getting to retirement. I know that Matt Ryan isn't getting to retirement, but he's getting up there in age. So they've got a chance. If they build this team right in a couple of years, they could be the dominant force in the division, but they have to get it right.
Yeah, and they have the 8th pick this year. So by the 8th pick, you would assume that the top 3 quarterbacks are gone.
Yeah.
Let's just say they are. Then do you look to like the second tier of quarterbacks? Do they go for that, or do they try and get some more offensive weapons?
Well, a Carolina trade-up candidate. If someone like the Jets decide they're sticking with Darnold and they want to trade down,
Yeah.
and someone
That's
come
what
up
I
for a
was about to
QB,
say, yeah.
I mean,
I think
they've had the 8th pick in the past. Just doing a wee bit of research there while you were talking. They had the 8th overall pick in 2017
Was
and
that?
took a certain Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, he did well for my fantasy team that year.
Yep. So I mean, they might just keep the 8th pick as like a superstitious kind of thing and try and get someone. But I think, like you say, I think of the kind of top 10 draft picks just now, they're probably the highest candidate to be drafting up a bit and trying to
I think that as
to
well.
get a higher pick.
I don't know about you guys. I don't know if it's just because I had, as we call him, Robbie Anderson. I don't know if it's because I had him. I don't know if it's because I had him in my fantasy team, but I feel like the first half of the season, the Panthers were fun to watch. They were a great team to watch on Red Zone and things like that. And the second half of the season, they've just completely fallen off the face of the earth.
The face of the earth.
Face
Yeah.
of the earth. That's it. That's where we're going with it. I like to stick with the mistakes I made, but again, I feel like I'm repeating myself with different teams over and over again. There's weapons there. You've got a healthy Christian McCaffrey to look forward to. You've got the emergence of Mike Davis. You've got good wide receivers there. Jeremy Chin, potential defensive player of the year candidate, defensive rookie of the year. Sorry. It's a tricky one. I don't know if they could trade up. They could pick an offensive weapon at 8. They could pick a defensive weapon. It's just decisions maybe in free agency and things like that would need to happen first before they make that decision.
I think just as you're going through that, obviously before I asked that question, I hadn't really looked. Going through that, when you look at the wide receivers, when you look at obviously having Christian McCaffrey back, it's got to be a quarterback for me.
Yeah,
I think it completes the puzzle on offense. No offense to Teddy Bridgewater, he's not an elite quarterback. He's filled a gap, I think, for them. Obviously after Cam went, I think they need to be looking to get an elite quarterback for years to come.
Definitely, you've got McCaffrey, you've got Samuel, Moore, Anderson. Those 3 wide receivers are a perfectly acceptable wide receiver trio. You just need someone to pass the ball to them.
Mike Davis,
yeah.
Do you think
I put Mike Davis in at quarterback?
Do you think they missed Luke Kuechly this season? Obviously, it was a bit of a surprise that he retired at the start of the season.
Yes, but also
that was a big
they spent all 7 picks on the defense in last year's draft. So I think this defense will only get better. It was very inexperienced, and I think as the year went on, it got a bit better. So I think, especially when they had no preseason this year either. So I think that this defense will improve as a unit. I think they just need to get that pass catcher. But yes, to answer your question, Mikey, I think any team would miss a player of Kuechly's ability.
I did not know that they'd spent all of their draft capital on defensive weapons. So I am now on the bandwagon. Draft a quarterback, Carolina, if you are listening.
Yep, listen to us. Whoever the GM is out there, listen.
We talk sense.
Kai, you shouldn't be giving this kind of information away when you're
Oh, sorry, I'm on the Texans roster now.
Yes, exactly.
You shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Houston.
Yeah, exactly.
Draft Nick Mullins.
On the other game,
Nick Mullins. Nick Mullins is redeclaring for the draft because he's been so bad this year.
Let's move on to the other game. Another team who I think, to be honest, with the number 4 pick might pick a quarterback. I know you two disagree with me maybe slightly, but I think Atlanta might draft a QB to sit as a backup for Matt Ryan.
I'm more edging towards it now. Yeah. If he's gonna sit behind Matt Ryan, whoever it is.
Yeah, I think it could be.
I think in that scenario, then they don't need to draft up. Well, obviously they can't really. They're what, 4th? Did you say?
Fourth, yeah.
There's not really much point. There is a chance, like you say, if the Jets stick with Arnold and other things don't change, so that stays as the top 4. There's a chance one of the top 3 quarterbacks drops to them.
Well, here's my hypothesis. Okay, the Jets or Miami, who are in 3, might not want to draft a quarterback. Okay.
In fact, that's a good point. I didn't even realise Miami were there.
But if Atlanta do have one they want, they might have to trade up, because if they don't, there's a chance that Carolina, division rival, might trade up above them and take the QB they want. And if another team does that, fair enough. If a team in your division does it, that is not something you want to happen.
No. I think they've just got to be very careful about not just, like you say, not just sitting on their hands. Obviously, that Trevor Lawrence will go first. He's gonna go first.
Well, there's now rumours that he might not. I think he's going to go first.
I think you would be
they lost
insane
it.
if you don't.
Clemson lost in the semi-finals to a certain Justin Fields. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Okay,
Just
well,
saying.
one of the two of them is going first. One of Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields will go first.
Or Wilson from BYU.
But I mean, it's going to be Lawrence, Fields, and then probably Zach Wilson, like you say, in the top three. I think if you're Atlanta, you want to take one of them. I would be looking to try and take one of them
personally. But we'll talk about that even more in the future because we're going to talk about a specialist draft episode. But after this game, the Bucks confirmed the 5 seed. You know who's good at catching the ball? Where Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Rob Gronkowski. They're quite good, aren't they? You know who's good at throwing
Mike Evans isn't good at catching the ball.
Right. Well, normally they're good at catching the ball. Obviously, Evans went off.
He's normally good at doing it, but when I put money on him to catch a touchdown, he decides to drop the flipping thing and then injure himself in the process.
Yeah, I know. But you know who's good at throwing the ball at them, though? Is Tom Brady.
Yeah.
399 yards for 4 touchdowns and interception. You know what's happened since I said Tom Brady can't throw deep balls? Is he keeps throwing deep balls.
We did say it last week.
He must be listening. I'm telling you, he must be listening.
Exactly.
Bruce Arians has definitely rolled in the big telly.
Yeah. And we'll move on to it, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get their playoff matchup against the winner of the NFC East, so that's also called a bye, I believe. So
they'll play their second string team.
So
I would love for the Washington football team to beat them now.
I think they'll do pretty well. But yeah, nothing much to talk about in this game. Falcons were, as they have been all season, not particularly great. Even though they're all right on offense, their defense hasn't been brilliant. They'll, I think, look forward to Julio Jones being fully fit next year as well, alongside Calvin Ridley. That could be quite fun. But that was, I'd say, probably
and Russell Gage as well.
Yes, he's emerging. Yes, exactly. And Hayden Hurst, who Mikey seems to quite like. So
yeah, big fan.
Yeah, I say high scoring game, just didn't really have a huge amount of meaning because the Bucks had basically already confirmed the 5 seed. Anyway, let's move on to another division that was perhaps more exciting. Let's go NFC North. Kai, let's go NFC North. We had the Vikings playing against the Lions in a game that didn't really matter, but it was high scoring, 37-35. The Vikings won that one. And the Packers beat the Bears 35-16 to confirm the number 1 seed and threaten the Bears with being knocked out of the playoff contention. But because of results elsewhere, the Bears still managed to get in even though they lost.
Somehow.
Yeah.
Classic Bears.
I think
Classic
that
Bears.
there was obviously that, like you've said, Adam. The focus this week was on the Bears Packers game. But of the 2 games, the Vikings Lions game was far more exciting. It was a lot closer and a lot more happening. Also nice of Marvin Jones for Mikey to appear in week 17 and decide to have a 180-yard 2-touchdown game.
Can I point out that I was the one that I did draft Marvin Jones in the redraft and then dropped him. And Mikey picked him up.
Yeah. He had a good game.
That guy's a beast when he wants to be. Seriously.
Aye.
I think I said it in the group as well. He could be the wide receiver too. I know it probably wouldn't. The Lions would be silly to get rid of Marvin Jones and also send him to division rival, but he would be, in my opinion, as well as I said, the likes of like Cole Beasley and Will Fuller is the perfect wide receiver too for Devontae Adams. I think that's the kind of guy that you want in your team. He's a perfect wide receiver too when Kenny Galladay's playing as well, and he's also very capable of putting up big numbers on his own.
Yeah. Obviously on the Viking side of the ball, Justin Jefferson again, 133 yards.
Can I just say, Kai, the most appealing thing of that whole thing for Jefferson, obviously he is now the leading receiving yard leader, however you want to put it, for a rookie season. 1,400 yards exactly, isn't it?
Aye.
That is very
That's very
satisfying.
Pleasing. Very pleasing.
Do you think, like,
Love
on his
that.
last catch of the day, he was like that to Kirk Cousins, right, I'm going to get to this point, you need to throw me the most perfect ball ever, and I'm just going to stand still.
And then he just fall out of bounds.
Can I just quickly jump back 2 seconds? I had a statistic for my NFC South, as I never told you.
Oh, okay.
Tampa,
we need a stat in
yeah,
this
We
week.
love a stat.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers, okay, had 9 drives. They scored on their first 8, and the reason they didn't on their 9th is because they were in victory formation.
That's
They scored on every other drive apart from the last one when they're in victory formation.
clinical.
Exactly, that is clinical.
Clinical.
Just when I was thinking about clinical teams, looking at the Minnesota Vikings.
Who seemed to do really, really well this week.
Yes.
Kirk Cousins had a good performance, 405 yards, 3 touchdowns, with no Dalvin Cook. Kirk Cousins had a rushing touchdown. That was like stop the world. Kirk Cousins has done something.
By the way, who was playing against Kirk Cousins in the fantasy final this week? Do you know who it was?
It wasn't me. My fantasy season's finished. I've got a title.
It wasn't me either. I was focusing on predictions mainly. I was shooketh when Kirk Cousins ran in, and also the fact that his first 2 touchdowns of the day were pass touchdowns to running backs. That just that grinds my gears. Kirk Cousins, if you're listening, you're no longer welcome in this podcast, and I'm putting you lower down in my rankings.
Do you know what he
even
says?
Though he had a great game.
He says he does like that.
Without
Yes, he does
Dalvin
like
Cook, you look that without Dalvin Cook, it looks like the Vikings have a very good replacement in Alexander Mattison.
He's been sat in my dynasty squad for the last 2 years.
Yeah, he's good at just being he's good at being a good backup, if that makes sense. He's more than happy to wait in the wings until the opportunity arises. 21 touches this week, 95 yards, a touchdown, like a really efficient performance from him. But he also obviously had 50 yards receiving for a touchdown as well. I think if you're the Vikings, you probably think of what could have been this year. They were at one point in the picture for the playoffs. They probably were always going to fall short, but there's promising signs there. I think they've certainly got options on the field. The most exciting rookie of this season by a mile in Justin Jefferson.
Didn't realise they had Jonathan Taylor.
Justin Jefferson.
Jonathan Taylor. Yeah, he's the most exciting rookie.
Sorry, I keep mispronouncing Justin Herbert. Obviously with Jefferson, Adam Thielen, they've got Dalvin Cook, Alexander Mattison to sit behind him, Irv Smith at tight end. I mean, I think personally, and I know you two will probably agree, I think the Vikings are a better team in that division than the Bears are.
Oh, 100%. It's just they don't have a defense.
Oh,
yeah.
They started off so slow, and the Bears started off so well this season.
Aye.
And we spoke about it maybe the first month of the season. We were like, did the Vikings just pack it up, pack it in, and try and rebuild this year?
Oh, there we go. Kai's going to sing along.
But they stuck with it, and I thought that was one of my predictions. I thought they were going to make the playoffs, which obviously they fell short of, and somehow the Chicago Bears got in. But also, before we jump onto that game, Adrian Peterson, is this the last we've seen of him, or do you think he's got another year in the tank? I love the guy.
He maybe doesn't have another relevant year in the tank, but I think he'll probably
has been relevant this season. That's what I just.
But no, that's what I mean.
If he keeps getting given a chance, he's gonna perform.
That's what I mean. He's been relevant this year. I just don't think come next year he will be as relevant. I think he's maybe just starting to grind down. And obviously with DeAndre Swift in the picture, maybe you just keep him in there to sit behind him, keep giving him advice.
I'll give you my expert analysis. I don't know. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, I don't know where you've got that source from, Adam.
It was.
I'm not sure you've got that source from, but I'll believe it.
Per sources, me and Ian Rappaport.
Right. Okay. Rap sheet at rap sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
To move on to the more important game in the division, the Packers Bears started off, looked like it was going to turn into a bit of a shootout. Obviously, the Bears went up and scored in their first drive, put a bit of pressure on the Packers, but I think in the end, there was only going to be one winner in that game, really. It was back and forward a wee bit until the third quarter, and then the Packers pulled away. I know we obviously discussed it at the time. There is only ever going to be one person that Aaron Rodgers looks to in the red zone at the moment.
This boy Daphne, yeah.
I had a look as well. Like, I found some stats at the time. I think it was something silly, like 83% of the targets in the red zone are to Devontae Adams, and then it's Robert Tonyan, and then it's Aaron Jones.
We keep saying Tonyan. Like, he pronounces his name
Tunyon.
Tunyon. Like
Tunyon.
he said, it's Tunyon like Funyun. That's how he said in the interview.
Yeah, Robert Tonyan then. So Devontae Adams, then Robert Tonyan, and then Aaron Jones. Packers very, very, very efficient on red zone drives, and very rightfully so. The one seed, I think they've been the most consistent team in the NFC this year. I know it obviously went down to the final week on who got the one seed, but I think you would have been hard pushed to say anyone else deserved it more. There you go, both of you.
I was going to say, Mikey,
Packers this year.
Can you see that? That actually looks like pain in Kai's face as he has to say that about the Packers.
And
it's justified.
Yeah. The one thing I will say, now I know obviously he didn't throw any touchdowns and threw an interception. Mitchell Trubisky looks a lot better.
I have to admit, he has looked better the second half of this season.
It was almost as if like benching him gave him a kick up the behind to go, you need to try and prove a point here. Now I know obviously, like I say, he didn't throw a touchdown, 252 yards. David Montgomery did a lot of the work on the ground. Surprisingly, Darnell Mooney seemed to be the lead receiver. Jair Alexander obviously had Allen Robinson in his back pocket.
Shut him down.
2 receptions for 37 yards. But yeah, to mention that by Daphne, where on earth did he come from?
Mikey, do you have any information on him? I have no idea.
Mikey, any idea who he is?
Couldn't tell you. Could not tell you.
Does that not tell you though with Green Bay that's how it is? There's people like, especially in previous seasons, you had folk like Equineme St. Brown who'd no one had heard of, MVS you at that point no one had heard of. These players just come out the woodwork and start catching passes because Aaron Rodgers is throwing them the ball.
One target, 1 reception, 1 touchdown.
Efficient.
For this boy Daphne. Do you think they just randomly wheeled them out for somewhere in the alcoves? We'll just chuck this guy on because the defense will have no idea what to do with him because they've never seen him before.
I'm pretty sure he won a fan competition. I think he won a competition to catch a touchdown with the Green Bay Packers.
What I don't know is he's actually a block of cheese.
Oh dear.
Oh, this is getting silly.
Yeah. I will get onto a stat. I know Kai's got one that I'll let him mention as well, but we spoke about it in a previous podcast that at the time we did the podcast, Aaron Rodgers had more touchdown passes than J.K. Scott had punts.
Yep.
That ended up being factual by the end of the season. Aaron Rodgers with 48 touchdown passes, J.K. Scott with 47 punts.
And
it
to
just
compare,
sums up.
I was just going to say, and to compare quarterbacks to other people that kick the ball, Devontae Adams ended up with more touchdowns this season than Mason Crosby had field goals. So I think it says everything you need to know.
Mason Crosby was 100% on field goals this year.
That wasn't as if Mason Crosby was bad. He scored every one he hit. I think it just shows you, or it tells you everything you need to know about this Packers offense, that they don't do punting, they don't do field goals. It's touchdown or broke.
I'm happy with that.
1 seed in the bag, MVP in the bag. I just don't know if the Super Bowl is in the bag. If Rodgers has won it, there is no doubt.
First one, I agree. Second one, I still say it's like 80-20.
First one, I agree, as if like we might still lose the 1 seed. I agree that we might still lose it. No, it would be, again, similar to what I said earlier, a criminal injustice if Aaron Rodgers was not to get MVP this year. I would riot. I would seriously riot.
Fine. I think, obviously, as you mentioned earlier, the biggest question mark or the biggest cloud that now hangs over the potential for a Super Bowl win is obviously no David Bakhtiari. I think, like you've said, that will have a massive, massive effect on the Packers. I said to Mikey during the week at some point that if the Packers had already sewn up the 1 seed before this week, then I think it would have been slightly better scenario. They could have had this week to try out a couple of people at that left tackle spot, and then a full week on a bye to try out people again to then go into the divisional round. It'll be interesting to see what happens. As you said, it's on his blind side. It's on Aaron Rodgers' blind side as well, which is probably a worry for him.
This is something I was thinking about, is that if we had locked up the 1 seed last week, I don't think Bakhtiari would have practiced, and that's where he had his injury. I think he would have been given a complete rest, maybe ran some drills, but I think if we locked up the 1 seed, that Bakhtiari injury does not happen at all, and that's the worrying thing. So, yeah, it's huge. He's just obviously signed the biggest offensive lineman contract in NFL history as well, which shows his value to the team. And as you said, Rodgers' blindside, it could be catastrophic, because now we had a relatively okay schedule this year, and now we're coming up against the big dogs, the defensive units that willed their team into the playoffs, and that's what worries me.
We'll play almost certainly the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, unless one of the 6 or 7 get through. But with the 6 or 7 being the Bears or the Rams, that's 6 and 7, isn't it? I'm not predicting them to win. Spoilers for my predictions. So I think we'll play against the Bucs and see the Bucs defensive front. That's scary. But even if we do play against the Rams, that defensive front's scary. And see if we do play against Chicago, that defensive front's scary.
It's like Khalil Mack, it's Aaron Donald,
and Ndamukong Suh. Like this,
you have got someone running at you all the time.
Paul.
Yeah,
that's the worry.
I think that's where
the dogs.
Yeah, see if it's the thing about it being on his blind side, I think is massive from the perspective of if you have David Bakhtiari, Aaron Rodgers doesn't think twice when he gets the ball. I think he's so confident, he knows the guy so well, he's got so much faith in him that he probably doesn't even think twice about someone coming from his blind side. Now, when there's somebody you're not used to playing with, it's almost like a second thought. He might start being a wee bit more erratic with his passes, try and get the ball out too fast, or he might automatically be looking to his left. It'll be interesting to see who ends up in there and what ends up happening. A lot of excitement to come in the next few weeks. I think that makes the NFC more unpredictable now. I think before now, I would have put the Packers as a shoe-in for the Super Bowl.
I totally disagree. I wouldn't have put them at that point, and especially now with injury, I don't think. I would almost put Adam's outlandish claim as the Packers will not make the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and before we move on to the last division, I just want to give credit to Matt LaFleur. He's went 13-3 in back-to-back seasons, just as a new head coach in his first 2 years as a head coach. So what's that, 26-6 overall as a head coach? Unbelievable. But we looked at the schedule next year. It's not kind to the Packers next year. So, and again, depending on who we draft, I think we still need a wide receiver. Next year could be very tough. So it could be Super Bowl or bust for Aaron Rodgers this year as he gets to the end of his career.
Yes. Complimenting Matt LaFleur there, Mikey. But if we go to the NFC West, someone who I've not been particularly complimentary of is Cliff Kingsbury, as his Cardinals lost 18-7 against the Rams' backup quarterback. Another game in that division, the Seahawks won 26-23 against the 49ers, meaning the Seahawks win the division. The Rams get a wild card spot, and it meant that Arizona do not get a wild card spot, and the Chicago Bears got in instead. I think I said this a few weeks ago, didn't I? That I thought that possibly Kyler Murray was covering the cracks of perhaps some poor coaching from Cliff Kingsbury. And was I right? Can I claim I was right, or do any of you disagree?
No, I would agree. I would also probably factor in the perspective of that backup. I don't even know what his first name was. Streveler?
Streveler sounds like something you'd have on your throat if you had like a lozenge or something like that. Like
a Streveler?
Aye.
He might as well have been a throat lozenge. He was hopeless.
Can we
Really
have
wasn't.
that printed on a t-shirt? He may as well have been a throat lozenge. That's a sentence.
Yeah, he wasn't very impressive at all. But I think, like you say, I think Kyler Murray probably papers over a few of those cracks. The Cardinals will be gutted, I think, not to make the playoffs.
Mikey, do you want to talk about your new best friend playing quarterback for the Rams?
Mikey's got it on
My
LinkedIn.
God. They didn't show it on Red Zone. I bring up a second television on a Sunday to watch Red Zone and then watch the Sky Sports game that's actually been televised.
Mikey's got two
Considering
tellies.
Adam's got 4 screens on a Sunday.
Yeah, I had 4 this Sunday.
We're just doing it right, Kai. Doing it right. On the actual game itself, Walford's first throw for the Rams as a first NFL throw was an interception. And I was thinking, my God, this is going to be a long day for the Rams. I thought the Cardinals were going to... I had the Cardinals to win the game, but when I seen that, I was like, the Cardinals are going to crush them here. But then Kyler Murray got injured and was hobbling about in the sideline, and Walford just became better than Jared Goff. Let's just say that.
Yes,
100%. He was just making very smart, educated throws, safe plays, really good rushing as well. I think just looking here, he was the highest rusher on the team with 56 yards. Really surprised. I never heard of him coming until the Jared Goff injury. And he was 231 yards, no touchdowns and an interception. Like, I know if you're looking at the stat line, that looks bad, but he was willing his team up the field and putting them in scoring opportunities, whether it was field goals, which I think
it was field goals.
Yeah, it was all field goals. But for a guy coming into a game with huge implications against a team that had to win to make the playoffs, I thought he was terrific, and did everything that he needed to do in this game. In terms of the Cardinals as well, Cliff Kingsbury has coached Baker Mayfield, Patrick Mahomes, and Kyler Murray in college and in at the NFL, and he's never had a season with eight or more wins. I am starting to worry. I think he's got the biggest hot seat going into next season, considering how good the trade was with Hopkins. I don't mind the rushing options with them. I don't think they have an elite or a starting running back. I think they kind of chop and change between Chase Edmonds and Kenyon Drake, and obviously they've got Kyler Murray as well. But I really do worry about Cliff Kingsbury's job next year. There was a play on 3rd and 11. I think they were down by 2 scores, and I think they could have worked their way into field goal range even if they hadn't got the first down. And he played a run option with Chase Edmonds, and he got swallowed up, and they had to put them back into punt formation. So he's been questioned a lot this season with his play calling. I think Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins have masked the ineptitude of Cliff Kingsbury this season. I think, is that the right way to put it?
I think that's fair, yes. I think
so. I think I would have thought Anthony Lynn would have been on the biggest hot seat going into next season, but he's gone. So
it's so hot at Burnham.
So it's Cliff Kingsbury now. I think it will. I think if they get off to a bad start next season, he could also be gone.
Oh, by the way, talking about hot seats, just I don't think we mentioned it, did we, in the AFC East that Gase is gone?
Adam Gase is gone, yeah.
Yeah.
A new beginning for the Jet. I did say a good few
Breaking
weeks
ago.
News. They would keep him to the end of the season on the basis that they were still paying their old head coach.
Yeah.
So they had to wait a certain amount of time, so they'd finished paying him so that they weren't paying 2 coaches while also employing one. I don't really know how to say it. The smallest surprise, the least surprising thing to come from this season. But yeah, the Cardinals Rams game is summed up by the fact there was 1 touchdown for each team, one of them coming from an interception return, and there was 11 punts. The average third down efficiency was 30%.
That's good.
8 of 24.
Goodness
first downs.
No, what made it even worse? There was a safety in the game. You know how I feel about safeties.
It wasn't even a normal safety either. It was a
liked it.
penalty for a safety.
I just don't like the way it affects the scoreboard. That's all. It does give you a chance of score-a-gami, I suppose, though. But
Yeah.
Mikey, the other game in that division was the Seahawks against the 49ers, and I'm just looking at the scoring plays here, and it went field goal, field goal, field goal, field goal, field goal for the first 3 quarters, which seems like that was really exciting.
Yeah, I backed the under in this game, and I think it was like 9-6 going up to halftime, and I was like, oh, perfect.
It was
I thought,
9-6 going after 3 quarters, Mikey. 9-6 after 3
Well,
quarters.
there we are. There we are. And then there was 34 points in the fourth quarter alone. And I was like, oh, that's smashing. That's just what I want. I know the Seahawks were technically still in the 1 seed. I honestly wouldn't have been surprised if they'd benched some players this week, just to stay fresh, because I think that the 1 seed was too hard to come by, especially with the way the Packers have been playing. But I mean, this is a game. This was, to me, in my opinion, we've said it in previous podcasts, I really feel for the 49ers. They've just struggled with injuries so bad this season. And considering at the start of the season we were like, yeah, it's the Seahawks are going to win the Super Bowl, and then we were all in on the Rams. If the 49ers were fully fit, I honestly think they could have won the division this year with the way the lack of form or consistency that those other 2 teams had, which is a shame. So, and the Cardinals as well. Sorry, just to add them in. And now we're starting to think that the Seahawks might be picking up momentum going in at the right time, going into the playoffs. So keep an eye on the Seahawks, and as I said, keep an eye on the Saints, because they're playing teams that either squeaked into the playoffs, or the Rams, who I don't know what's happening with golf at the moment. So just as we said that the AFC's got the highest quality in terms of teams in the playoff, I think that NFC is more unpredictable, and that's what I think will make it more enjoyable to watch for sure.
Yes, I think it'll be very exciting indeed.
I still have my doubts over the Seahawks as well. I don't think they looked very convincing this week, but again, you could probably put it down to what you've said. They maybe took the foot off the gas a wee bit and knew they didn't really need to exert themselves too much. The result of this game didn't really affect them in the end.
They took the foot off the gas, and then in the fourth quarter they accidentally slammed on the foot in the accelerator by accident, and then they realised what they've done, so they took it off straight away. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean that. Sorry, need to keep that for playoffs.
Yeah, so again, like the playoffs are always exciting. I think like you said, Adam, I think the AFC will be exciting on the basis of so many good teams. I think the NFC will be exciting on the basis of uncertainty. There's so many teams that are in there that you're like, how on earth have you ended up in that position?
Yeah.
And you always know there's going to be
an upset. Yeah. So I think the upset will come from the NFC, because really, in the AFC, anyone could win their matchups.
Exactly. Yeah.
And in the NFC, you look at that and go, well, there's a clear favourite in most of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's
go into the best division in football.
I was going to say, let's talk about the one that probably had the most drama, if you can call it drama. Okay, so let's quickly touch on the Dallas versus Giants game. Well, let's work our way through the statistics. Andy Dalton, possibly the statistics say it wasn't a bad game for him, that bad a game, but watching the game, I think that was maybe one of the worst games I've seen Dalton play. He had 29 completions from 47 attempts, 243 yards, no touchdowns, an interception. It wasn't great. Zeke Elliott rushed for 42 yards, which really helped Mikey's fantasy final for him this week. He did get a touchdown though, which helped. On the Giants side of the ball, Sterling Shepard did all the catching, and the Dallas Cowboys lost the game to the Giants, which meant that the Giants needed Philadelphia to beat Washington for the Giants to get into the playoffs. Would you say that's a fair enough analysis of that? And then we move on to the really interesting game?
Yeah, I don't think there's much to say from the Cowboys-Giants game.
All I'll say is,
to be brutally honest,
the Cowboys had a chance to win it on 3rd and goal, but they'd been pushed back a little bit. And Andy Dalton, who, if the Cowboys had made the playoffs, Andy Dalton would have had a $1 million bonus, decided, you know what? I don't want $1 million. I don't need $1 million. I'm just going to throw this to a Giants player instead, and decided to do that. So the Cowboys could have won this game, and it could have made that late game. I don't think it would have changed what happened in the late game. It probably would have been even more encouraged in the late game.
I was going to say, if it had gone the other way, I think it would have happened earlier.
Yeah. But the Cowboys out with a whimper after being a nothing team in a nothing division that ended up somehow almost being able to win the division, completely thrown away. But again, what could have been this season if the MVP of the first 3 weeks, Dak Prescott, had stayed healthy. So positive to take, I think, from the Cowboys. On you go.
Sorry, I was going to say, I would go as far to say if Dak Prescott was healthy, they'd have won that division easily.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
If any of the teams...
We spoke last week about the receivers, the fact that they've got 3 very good receivers. Zeke is still Zeke, even though he's had a poor season and he's fumbled a lot. I think if Dak was healthy, they would have won this division a long time ago, just given obviously the circumstances this year with this division. But I mean, that just means that next season, this division could be one of the best in football. You just never know. That's the way the NFL works.
If any of them had consistent QB play across the season, okay, because obviously all of them end up with backups. I think on Sunday Night Football, did they have, was it 11 different quarterbacks? They ended up starting games across the 4 teams. It's crazy the amount of rotation they've had through here. But yeah, if any of the teams had a competent quarterback for the full season, I think they would have won this division easy.
Yeah. For all the I'm trying to think of the right word, for all the criticism that this division got, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's been my favourite division to watch this season.
Oh,
100%. It is made for phenomenal television.
At no point did you know who's going to win it.
I'm going to go as far to say it's been my least favourite division.
I think you can say that, yeah. But I mean, the fact that there's just so many things that have happened in this division alone, and then when Jalen Hurts came in and you're facing the New Orleans Saints, you're like, my God, and they go out and beat the Saints, you're like, right, we're going to win the division because we've got Dallas week next week and things like that. It's been get the popcorn out the ready because this division was phenomenal.
Right,
phenomenally bad.
Kai, Resident Eagles fan. So.
Sounded like you said Resident Evil.
Resident Evil fan, yes. So it was announced a couple of hours before kickoff. I'm sure it was Mike Garafolo, I think, who announced it.
Yep.
That Sudfield was going to get some meaningful snaps at the end of the game.
Yeah. So Nate Sudfield, who, sorry, let's get to the most important point. Carson Wentz was a healthy scratch, so no reps at all, which suggests to me they're going, right, we'll keep him as healthy as we can and get rid of him. So then Mikey obviously mentions the fact that this is a perfect opportunity for Jalen Hurts to just have the full game and get as much experience as he can. Nate Sudfield has not had a single rep at quarterback this season. Every week without fail, he's on the injury report, even though he's healthy. It's just, bizarre.
It's a case of Sudfield, can you play this week? Can we put you as a backup because we're not really going with Wentz and Jalen starting? Oh, I can't. I've got my sisters and
he's just doing everything he can to not play.
Oh, what about next week? Well, my hamster needs to go to the vet. I can't play. I can't do it.
There's just that we are paying you several £1,000s a week to do that. Oh no, I know, but nowhere in the contract that say I actually have to play the game of football. I just have to turn up, don't I? Sometimes
potentially.
And I think that was shown when he came in, that he is absolutely horrific. I've never seen a guy, I've watched Carson Wentz for a good few weeks this season, still would put Sudfield down as the worst quarterback we've had this year.
Well, looking at the passer rating, again, I know statistics possibly sometimes lie, but I don't know if I've ever seen a passer rating at 14.
There's also something that I have just seen here which has thrown me for a loop. He was drafted by the Washington Redskins, or now the Washington football team. So was he helping them? In this game? In 2016,
I didn't
he was
know
a
that.
6th round pick out of Indiana, just looking at his page here. And then secondly, he's a Super Bowl champion.
What?
Was he on the Eagles squad?
Was he on the roster?
He must have been 3rd string quarterback. I think the season he joined, he was at Washington for a year, and then 2017 he joined the Eagles and then won the Super Bowl.
He has a
obviously
ring.
the third string.
He has a Super Bowl
He
ring.
has technically he has a ring. Yep. So
I don't have a ring, and he does.
Yeah. And you almost have roughly the same quarterback rating as well. So
I think my quarterback rating would be better than that, to be honest. See. In all honesty, Jalen Hurts' quarterback rating at 25. See if this was Carson Wentz. This is in all seriousness. If Carson Wentz was your quarterback and he went 7 for 20 for 72 yards, all the Philadelphia Eagle fans would have been shouting for him to come off the field anyway.
Yeah.
From a passing perspective, but he also had 34 yards and 2 touchdowns rushing, so it probably papers over the fact that he didn't throw the ball very well.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Jalen Hurts is 100 times better than Carson Wentz, because where Carson Wentz would just hold on to the ball and go, and just not do anything with it, Jalen Hurts goes, right, let's try and turn this into something else. And he escapes the pocket, and 9 times out of 10, he does something meaningful with it. The one thing I did notice after the game, having watched the highlights and stuff, when Sudfield was brought in for Hurts, nobody knew it was happening. Nobody on the sideline knew it was going to happen. They just knew he was named as the backup to Hurts. Apparently, like, the offensive players still thought there was a chance they could win the game. Doug Peterson since come out and said he was coaching to win.
What? No, don't start doing that. You admitted at the start you're going to give him meaningful snaps. Say we were just trying out the boy, as most teams do in week 17 when there's nothing to play for.
So he's come out and said he was coaching to win, but apparently when it happened, there was quite a lot of confrontation at the side of it. Players maybe questioning why it was happening, potentially Hurts questioning why he was being pulled.
Peterson has a duty for not necessarily for the fans, for the team, but for the players on that team to give them the best chance of winning that game.
Yep. And now, obviously, going into the game, there were a lot of players inactive, which I can understand. It's a game that players have probably been battered all season. There's been chopping and changing. I can understand players sitting out. I get that. But see the players that you name on the roster, you've got to put them out as the best potential to win a game.
Especially when there's still a chance to win the game.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you come out after the game and say you were playing to win, after that, it leaves a sour taste in some people's mouths, I think.
I don't blame them, 100%.
Especially Joe Judge.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to try and play the quote, but I've got the quote here. So he came out and said, obviously players have asked me throughout the day, and I just can't express that. The one thing to keep in mind this season is we had a lot of people opt out of the season, coaches, players, that includes their family members as well. So to look at a group of grown men who I asked to give me effort day in, day out, and to empty the tank, and then I can look at them in the eye and assure them I'm always going to do everything I can to put them in a competitive advantage and play them in a position of strength. To me, you don't ever want to disrespect those players and their effort or disrespect the game. And then one bit that you said that really kind of struck a chord was, especially this season, the sacrifices that they made to come into work every day and test before coming in, to sit in meetings spaced out, to wear masks, to go through extensive protocols, to travel in unconventional ways, to get text messages at 6:30 in the morning telling them practice is cancelled, it's a virtual day, to tell them don't have your family over for Thanksgiving, please avoid Christmas gatherings, we know it's your wife's birthday, let us make sure we put that one off to the off season, things like that. That's what I can understand.
Yeah.
But but at the time when we knew that maybe the Eagles, especially if it was the Cowboys that were in the position to win and the Eagles would have lost that game, I mean, I was kind of like, I'm all for it. I think that's quite funny, to be honest. But when you put it that way, especially this season with all the difficulties, there is a bit of a question mark and a bit of a dark cloud looming over this whole situation. But that's the way it is. And we've not really spoke about them at all, but congratulations to Washington for actually making the playoffs.
I know, unbelievable.
I think,
yeah.
I know you said that Cliff Kingsbury's probably in the hot seat. I think Doug Peterson's managed to put himself onto the hot seat with the way he's gone about things at times this season.
Questionable decisions.
And
there's a meeting as we are on the day that we're recording this, isn't there? There's a meeting with him in the higher ups.
Apparently, Jim Schwartz is going to retire, who's the defensive coordinator, so you need to bring someone else in. I think, from the outside looking in, Peterson will stay, but I don't know if I agree that that's the right decision.
I think he's earned the right to stay simply
Oh,
because
obviously,
he's won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, but
I don't know if that's the right
that's
decision.
99% of the reason why I think the Legals,
The
the
Legals.
Eagles have struggled so much this season and at times last season. We're resting on the laurels of a Super Bowl win. That's just, I think we're still stuck in the past at times.
As an Eagles fan, before we get on to Washington, is this the end of Zach Ertz? He was apparently on the field until 1 a.m.
Yeah,
walking around. He was crying.
I think it
Have we
is.
seen the last of him?
I think, unfortunately, I think it is. I can't see him sticking around, especially with what's going on just now. I know obviously there's promise in someone like Jalen Hurts, but that's about it. There's not much promise elsewhere. Doesn't look as if the franchise have been run very well. Like we've said, a couple of questionable decisions. Bit of uncertainty surrounding it. I think I don't even know what age he is now. Actually, he's not young. Put it that way. He's probably hitting a point where he wants to keep his career on the straight and narrow. Yeah, I think he's gone.
If he still likes wearing green, coming up to Green Bay, we'll have him as a complimentary tight end alongside Tunyon.
He'll get some reps behind Tunyon and Mercedes Lewis.
He's 30, so
I mean, he's still got a good half.
He's still got a good
dozen
few years on him, but again, he's no young.
I mean, if Mercedes Lewis is still doing it, and you know,
but
that's true. But yes, onto the Washington football team.
Thank you, Tony Gibson, for winning me some money. Over 12 rushing attempts was my bet. I can't believe that was the line, by the way.
Over 12.
Over 12 rushing attempts was even money. I was like, well, that's just printing money, isn't it? I mean, come on.
Yeah. The whole situation with Washington, with Ron Rivera obviously having cancer this year, and the well-documented Alex Smith injury on this podcast. I think anybody that wasn't a fan of a team on this division was rooting for Washington to make the playoffs. I'd love to give Ron Rivera the head coach of the year as well as Alex Smith having comeback player of the year, and then also Chase Young as defensive rookie of the year potentially between him and Jeremy Chin, I would say. But yeah, a feel-good factor and a great story for Washington.
Yes, and a very nice, easy game for them to play at home to Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers next week.
There's one thing I seen last night as well that I saved to show you guys is the comparison between Alex Smith's injury and Joe Theismann's injury back in 1985. So both of them broke their right tibia and fibula. It happened on November 18th, 1985 and November 18th, 2018. They were both playing for the Washington Redskins at the time, as they were called. It was in Washington, D.C. It was both on the 39-yard line. The final score of the game was 23-21 on both games. It was caused by, at the time, for Joe Theismann, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, Lawrence Taylor, and for Alex Smith, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, J.J. Watt. And at the time, Joe Theismann's left tackle, which was a Pro Bowl Joe Jacoby, was off the field due to an injury. And for Alex Smith, Pro Bowl left tackle Trent Williams was off the field due to injury. It's scary how similar those injuries were. Scary.
It's really, really quite freaky. Yeah.
Yep. Yes, these are the kind of stuff you love to read about, obviously, as a fan as well. But Joe Theismann, Hall of Famer, Super Bowl champion. Don't know if I could say the same for Alex Smith, but I just love the fact that this guy gets a chance to play in the postseason after everything that he's been through. So congratulations. And if it leads on to it, I think that is going to be the game where the upset is going to occur.
Oh, on Saturday night. Goodness me.
Here's my flip of that. I think Tom Brady and the Bucs absolutely annihilate them. Yeah. I can see Tom Brady not being on the field by the fourth quarter. There you go. I think he'll be out of sight by the end of the third.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers win that game. If we're going on to predictions, which we are, I think
we might as well fire right on.
I think because that's us done now. We all know who's in the playoffs, so we're going to predict our playoffs again. There's no need to be guessing. Oh, who's currently in the playoffs? You know, it might not be like this. We know exactly who's in there, as long as Mikey's got the right list. And
Mikey's got the
I do.
Dolphins in there.
Yeah.
Eagles
we may
as
as well
one
start with
seed
the
out the NFC.
So Packers with the 1 seed and the first round bye. So Chicago Bears, Da Bears at Da Saints, New Orleans Saints.
Next. No point in asking that one. Next.
Yeah.
Saints.
And then as the number 6 Rams at the number 3 Seahawks. Interesting game.
Seahawks for
I
me.
think
Does this all depend on what happens with Jared Goff?
Yeah, I think the biggest if there is Jared Goff.
Yeah, that's true. If Jared Goff's
'Cause
back,
if they play him,
the Seahawks
they'll
win.
lose.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. If John Walford plays,
Walford is
I
gonna go
think they
2-0.
win it. No,
Yeah.
I think as much as I said I've got my doubts over the Seahawks still, I think they'll probably win that one.
Seahawks for me, thank you.
I think with that cool camera and the game being in Seattle, I think the Seahawks are going to win.
Aye, they've got to have that camera
and
on
then-
the field.
Yeah, the game that we spoke about, the number 5 Bucks at Washington.
I think we've went 2-1 for the Bucks there against
Yeah.
your prediction, Mikey.
Buccaneers out of sight.
I just think there's an upset somewhere, and the only ones that are jumping at the page on both conferences is the Bears upsetting the Saints or Washington upsetting the Bucks, and I'm not picking the Bears. So I'm just going to say I think if there's going to be an upset, it's going to happen in DC. I was just about to move on to the AFC there. So we've got the number 5 Bucks at Lambeau Field against the Packers and a David Bakhtiari-less Packers.
Buccaneers, please.
I'm going to pin this on you, Mikey. I'll go Packers. I also think the Packers probably will win, to be fair, because I think it would be unfair to say otherwise, considering how good they've been.
Yeah.
But-
I'll especially after the Bears game without Bakhtiari. I know the Bears and the Bucks are a totally different kettle of fish, but I am going to take the Packers on that one as well. And then we've got the number 3 Seahawks travelling down to New Orleans.
Saints for me.
Yeah. I think maybe one step too far for an uncertain Seahawks.
One step beyond.
So Lambeau Field for the New Orleans Saints, who are the number 2 seed, at the Packers, the number 1 seed.
Saints.
Saints for me, I'm afraid.
I don't need to give my opinion, then I'll say the Saints. It's because you said the Saints. So the Saints make the Super Bowl for the first time in God knows how long. I'll get that on my notes in a second. So now we've got the AFC. Obviously, the Chiefs felt like they've had the number 1 seed forever.
It's not been as long as you think, because bear in mind the Steelers were lostless for quite a long time.
God,
Oh,
yeah,
I know.
that feels like another lifetime.
Yeah.
So you've got the number 7 Colts at the number 2 Bills. This was what I said at the weekend. I think the Bills would have preferred to have played the Titans, because I think this defensive unit, if there's going to be anybody in the AFC that's going to try and put a stop to the Bills, it could be the Colts. I'm not just going to say they're winning; they're going to win, but that's where I leave it up to you two.
I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be closer than people anticipate, but Bills all day long.
Bills for me as well, please.
And then
I think they win it on offense on the basis of the Colts not really having much depth and having Phillip Rivers at quarterback.
The number 6 Browns at the number 3 Steelers.
Oh boy.
Now, we've literally just seen this, and the Browns scrape past second string QB for the Steelers, but a lot of the other Steelers weapons were still out there. You know, like, it's not.
Just for the record as well, sorry, we haven't had the Saints in our consensus playoff in the Super Bowl since week 13.
Interesting. I still stand by Steelers here.
I'm going to make Mikey decide. I'm going to go for the Browns.
I said earlier in the podcast, I think the momentum of the Browns are going to carry them through at the first playoff appearance. I think Baker Mayfield is going to have a day. I think I don't know if it's going to be a good day. I think it might be a very erratic day, but I think he's going to have enough to will them over the line. Jarvis Landry, Chubb, Kareem Hunt, you name it. And then probably the tie of the full playoffs. the number 5 Ravens at the number 4 Titans.
Ravens for me. Ravens have got the momentum.
Yeah, I think that's what wins them it. What are they now? 5? I think
Ravens.
it's a 5-game winning streak, and they're doing it comfortably as well. So yeah, Ravens.
Yeah, they've won 5 now,
Perfect.
Ravens. Yeah.
So this is interesting. So the number 3 and 4 seeds have been eliminated. So you've got the number 6 Cleveland Browns at the number 1 Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, who's the better quarterback?
I think
You think
Chiefs.
the Browns, yeah.
Chiefs, please.
Yep, Chiefs.
Okay, and the number 5 Ravens at the number 2 Bills could be an
What a
incredible
matchup
game.
that is, by the way. I still stick by again what I've said all season. The Bills, I think.
I would go the Bills. I don't think the Ravens will go ahead, and then I think they might struggle to pass to catch up.
I think in a shootout.
Yeah.
Yep. If the Ravens were to go 2 scores up, I'd say the Ravens. I think if the Bills go any score up, a touchdown up, then I'd say the Bills probably. So anyway, same as we've had for quite a while now, the AFC Championship game, the Buffalo Bills, the number 2 seed, at Arrowhead Stadium to play the Chiefs. Bear in mind, the Bills have made the Super Bowl the last 2 weeks, and before that it was Chiefs, Titans, Chiefs, Steelers.
Oh well, we've changed our mind on the Steelers, haven't we?
That was in week 8 we started this, when they were 8-0.
Nothing has happened in the last week that would make me change my mind about what I said. So I'm still sticking by the Bills here.
I think something has changed, and that is that the Chiefs in our fictional scenario here would have played against the Browns, and the Bills would have played against the Ravens. And I think the Bills will have had a tougher game against the Ravens, both physically and mentally, than the Chiefs would have had. So I think the Chiefs would win this game because they were fresher.
Based on that, I would probably side with Adam on this, and just the fact that I feel like the Chiefs haven't even showed how good they can be this season, and I think that there's going to be a game, whether it be against the Browns in this situation or against the Bills. God, this is tough.
Well,
I'm trying to think who I want.
I'll say something here.
To play in the Super Bowl.
While you think about it, Mikey, I remember us talking about the fact that Chiefs kind of haven't been in form, but Buffalo have been in form, and that's fair enough. But there's also a possibility the Bills have now peaked at the end of the regular season, whereas the Chiefs are yet to reach their peak. So they've been struggling, but they're still to rise up to the level that they could get to.
And we haven't spoken about obviously the Bills' issues in the playoffs, and they went on a massive playoff drought for years, and then they lost to the Texans last season when they were ahead by quite a bit. I'm going to take the Chiefs in this one, but that take nothing away from the Bills. I think the Bills will win a Super Bowl in the next 2-3 years. But
Mikey's outlandish claim of the week. There we go. Bills will win the Super Bowl in the next 2 weeks. 2 weeks? 2 years.
They'll win it in the next 2 weeks.
2 weeks. It's not getting played in 2 weeks, but they'll win it then. They'll just give it. So I don't think we've had this one. Just looking through.
Wait, that's
Steelers,
absolutely
Seahawks.
ridiculous if we've not had Chiefs against Saints in a Super Bowl prediction yet.
So since week 8, it's been Steelers, Seahawks, Chiefs, Packers, Chiefs, Rams, Titans, Seahawks, Chiefs, Saints in week 13. There we go. Chiefs, Rams, Bills, Packers, and now Chiefs, Saints.
How on earth? Sorry, just going through that. How on earth did we have a Titans Seahawks Super Bowl at one point?
Well, at one point, Seahawks were the form team.
Seahawks being there, but when did we think the Titans were getting to the
I think
Super
we
Bowl?
said they were going to bully a lot of people, did we not? Was Henry not just stiff arming people for fun?
I'm just trying to see what happened in week 12 with the Titans to see if it was
to make us think
win.
they were making the.
So the Titans that week demolished the Indianapolis Colts.
Oh yeah,
45-20.
that was the week they went up big early.
Yeah, maybe we were just a wee bit too riled
Wee
up
bit
by that.
too
But
excited.
anyway, Raymond James Stadium, Tampa Bay, Kansas City Chiefs versus the New Orleans Saints. Does Mahomes go back to back, or does Drew Brees go out with a ring?
Kai's nodding his head.
A bit earlier, I think.
I'm not sure what to.
I think if the Chiefs get there, and I'm still not certain they will, but if they get there, I think they'll win.
Mikey, you're gonna have to decide because I'm picking the Saints.
I love doing this to
In
Mikey.
terms of narrative, I would love the Saints to win, and then Drew Brees to just call it a day right then and pack up his broken ribs and sail off into the sunset. But I don't know. I'm trying to think. I think Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara will really start to prevail in these playoffs, and I'm going to strangely back a New Orleans Saints Super Bowl victory this week.
Goodness me.
Believe it or not.
Just out of interest, Mikey,
So that's the first.
could we have a look at the statistics in terms of AFC versus NFC in our predictions throughout the
Aye,
week?
who we've had.
To see if we prefer the NFC to win the Super Bowl or the AFC over the weeks. What's the head to head?
The winners, you mean?
Yes, the winners. Yeah. Who?
The winner. So week 8 Seahawks.
So that's an NFC win.
Weeks 9, 10, and 11 Chiefs.
Yeah.
That's 3 for the.
And then another one for the Seahawks, so
Yeah.
3-2. And then another one for the Chiefs, 4-2. And then we went Rams, Packers.
That's
Oh.
5-4.
Saints. And then
So
the Saints.
that's 6-4.
6-4.
And
So we
it's-
think potentially 6% chance of an NFC team.
It's
winning the Super
bizarre
Bowl.
because we've literally not stopped saying that the AFC have the stronger.
AFC's the
playoffs.
strongest.
Yeah,
Now,
and we keep
I think I
slagging
said
them.
this probably a month ago now, that I thought the top of the NFC was stronger than the top of the AFC,
Yeah.
but the actual kind of 3
playoff
through
structure.
kind of 10 was better in the AFC. And the AFC teams, the only team we've ever had an AFC team win it is the Chiefs. We've never had the Steelers winning it. We've never had Bills or anyone like that.
Yeah,
It's
so
always
it's
been the
literally
Chiefs.
NFC versus the Chiefs. That's the way it's been.
There you go. So then maybe is that our prediction that if the Chiefs get
an
to
NFC team?
if the Chiefs get to the Super Bowl, there's a chance they win it, and if anyone else represents the AFC, the NFC have won it.
That can be
Yeah, I think
your.
that's Adam's outlandish claim.
Adam's
Chiefs, if they get-
outlandish.
Might win the Super Bowl.
I still stand
Uh,
by my Buffalo Bills. My Buffalo Bills?
Your Buffalo Bills. Yeah. Anyway, if Tony Gibson and Jonathan Taylor just want to make a team by themselves, I'll support that team.
Well, they're both in the playoffs. Would you like a Colts Washington Super Bowl?
Do you know how happy I would be? Imagine Johnny Taylor and Tony Gibson running against each other. Ugh.
Well, just one quick thing before we go on to the predictions, right? Looking at the 7 teams in the AFC and 7 teams in the NFC, what is the least likely Super Bowl that could happen?
I'm still saying the Colts Washington must be the least likely. Then.
No, I would say Washington have more of a chance getting to the Super Bowl than Chicago.
Well, I said that the Washington would beat the Bucks and the Saints would beat the Bears. So I say Bears in the Super Bowl against the Browns.
Yep, I agree with you, Mikey. Browns is my
Browns,
least
I don't even-
likely.
Imagine.
I don't
I
even
don't
think
think I'd
I should.
watch it. I don't think I'd put it on.
Yeah. Sean would be sitting himself with his banners and balloons up, and
I would-
none of us would be.
I mean,
I think I'd
I
just
would,
go to my bed. I would watch the highlights.
how often would it be that all of us would support the same team? Well, certainly me, Mikey, and Sean would be supporting the same team there because there's no way we are supporting the Bears.
I think I would
Absolutely
just
not.
go to Bears to be different to all of you.
Mitch Trubisky in a Super Bowl.
And
Oh,
no, Nick Foles. Get Nick Foles under centre, and I'll support the Bears.
Hey, that's a narrative, isn't it?
Imagine the guy got 2 Super Bowls just out of his
Jeez.
final. Man,
Right,
we digress.
anyway,
yeah,
that's a big dream.
digress
And now we wake
a
up
lot.
and we do the
Exactly.
predictions.
And we get our 2-minute warning, and it's time for the predictions. The last week
Here's
of
what
the
Mikey's
predictions.
been waiting for
Exactly.
all day.
The last week of the predictions. Mikey has struggled in fantasy football this year. I say struggled. He's got to some finals, but he's not won anything. So this is his chance of getting a ring, a trophy, however you want to describe
All
it.
I'll say is, from the get-go, since day one, I've always said that this is the one that I wanted to win out of the fantasy leagues and the predictions. The predictions was the one. I've said it from day one. You can find it on previous podcasts. This is the one I always wanted to win. This is it. I put blood, sweat, and tears into this. This is the one I wanted to win. So let's just get underway, will we?
Right, so well, I'll go down the list. I hope that's in the same order as you've got them now. We'll see, or you'll have
Okay.
to jump about. The first game we were predicting was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beating the Atlanta Falcons.
Clean sweep for the Bucks.
Well done to us. The Giants beating the Cowboys.
We had Adam. You had the Giants. You were the lone wolf on that.
Oh, catching up. It's very close going into this week. We'll see if it finishes that way. The Patriots beating the Jets.
Adam, you had the Jets.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay,
back to,
right.
back to level
there.
pegging for everyone.
Right there.
The Vikings beating the Lions.
Adam, you had the Lions.
Do you remember about 7 weeks
God.
ago I said, and I'm never going to back the
I was a
Lions?
Lions And Kai was a Lions fan, yeah.
Yeah.
Aye.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and Kai had the Vikings.
Oh, so that's me and last again already.
Good game, though.
Yep. Cleveland beating Pittsburgh.
Clean sweep for the Browns.
And I'm hoping a clean sweep for the Ravens.
We all had the Ravens, yeah.
And clean sweep for the Buffalo Bills would have been sensible.
No, you were a lone wolf for the Bills, believe it or not. Kai's third favourite team, the Bills, after the Lions and the Eagles. He picked against the Bills. So Adam, you were the only one.
Just
with
out of
Buffalo.
interest, why did any of you think that Tua and the Dolphins was going to beat Allen and
I
the Bills?
didn't- I didn't
I-
think the Bills were going to
I
put
wasn't
out
really
any
sure.
other starters. I thought the Dolphins were like in the
But
position
even if
they
they
were in.
even if they did go second string, we would have still been wrong because they would
Aye.
have probably won 75 points.
Also, the fact the Dolphins had to win to.
Aye, but I mean, Buffalo had a chance
Yeah,
to
that's fair.
knock Miami out the playoffs and also a chance to get, the 2 seed? So,
Yeah.
very strange.
Yeah.
Seattle, they beat the 49ers.
We all had the Seahawks in the low-scoring, high-scoring game.
Yes. The Rams beat the Cardinals.
Kai, lone wolf with the Rams.
Yeah. In that instance, it was a similar thing that you thought, Kai. I just thought the Cardinals need to win to get in. So,
Cardinals had to win.
Indianapolis beat the Jags.
We all had the Indianapolis Colts.
The Titans beat the Texans.
We all had the Tennessee Titans.
The Raiders beat the Broncos.
Adam, you had the Broncos.
I'll be honest, I thought that was a real good bet until right then.
I'm not gonna lie, Adam. I nearly took the Broncos as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have been bitten once too many times by the Raiders, so I was just picking against
Yeah.
them. The Chargers beat the second string Chiefs.
Kai had the Chiefs. I think he thought the Chiefs would do what the Bills did.
And just have a really good second string team out.
The Packers
Yeah.
beat the Bears.
Clean sweep for the Packers.
The Saints beat the Panthers.
Clean sweep for the Saints.
And the Washington football team. Sorry, I'll rephrase this. The Philadelphia Eagles helped the Washington football team beat the Philadelphia Eagles.
We all had the Philadelphia Eagles helping the Washington football team beat the Philadelphia Eagles.
Very, very good. So that sounds like it was fairly close this week.
The highest
There was a
scoring week of the year, I
tiebreaker
think.
on the week, and the quality this week it really shone through. God, let me do the maths here. There was a tiebreaker for first place for the week, and in total the week was out of 48. There was a total of. Let me just check this.
This is Mikey doing some mental maths.
38 out of 48 was the predictions for the week from all three of us.
That's impressive.
So, Adam, you were in third place with 12 out of 16.
I mean, 75% you're in
Aye,
last. That's
aye.
not a bad effort, is it?
Yeah. Kai, I'd say you're in second place and not last. Let's just put it that way. And joint top for the week, Kai and myself both on 13 out of 16. And if this came down to us being on level points for the full tournament, it would have came down to DeAndre Swift and Nick Chubb.
Oh, you
and-
won then. By a
DeAndre
mile.
Swift had 16 points. Nick Chubb had 16.8.
Oh, goodness
my.
me, that was close.
Yeah. So there was 0.8 of a difference for the tiebreak. So on the season, Kai don't need to worry about the asterisks anymore. Adam in third place with 130
Take that.
out of 208. So you're over 500 definitely.
Yeah.
130. Second place, Kai with 132. And in first place, I can't even get it out. I'm going to cry. 135 points. I finally won something. I'm ripping up the stat sheet. Hey! Finally won something.
Well done, Mikey. Well done.
A
It's been
consolation
a
victory.
tough year. Tough year, but this is the one. This is the holy grail of competitions. So I've done it. Adrian, I did it.
I'm going to need to get a wee trophy made for the Predictions League now, will I?
Just a tiny wee
Yeah,
thing.
I
what,
think we should
ashes?
literally just see the wee ones you can get, like the participant trophy for like 10-year-old football leagues and stuff.
No, I'll print,
just get one of
print
those.
you off a certificate, Mikey. That's what I'll do.
And we'll put it in our future studio, which will hopefully happen next year once we are all allowed to meet again, along with
And
the
then-
present that I've got both of you boys.
And then when we're all together and we have lots of fans, we can get other people involved in the Predictions League,
Exactly.
It'll be fun, yeah.
not just us.
Exactly. Well, gentlemen,
We're hoping to expand in the off season. Let's just say that as a little teaser to our fans and Mick Mullins.
yes, exactly. Come on in, Nick. Still like you here. I prefer CJ Beathard, to be honest, but
Ah, come on.
I think the 49ers prefer CJ
CJ's
Beathard.
not a fan of the show. CJ's not a fan of the show.
No, he's a fan of the show. Tom Brady, clearly, because he listens to
Aye,
all the stuff I was
listen.
saying.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Mick Mullins. was
And
our
Mick Mullins.
Very first from day one.
Very first fan of the show. He had the first listen. That's what he did. Right, let's call that a day then. Week 17 review, all done and dusted. We will be back next week. It might be slightly different because we obviously will be looking at the wild card games. I'll be moving from my office to home because, you know, the new regulations we have here in Scotland. So we'll see what happens. It could be fun. If you don't have a podcast, you know that everything's falling
Something
apart.
has gone dreadfully wrong.
But I'm sure.
Just have to voice note it on WhatsApp or something and just post it on our streaming sites.
I'll have to edit it together. All of us record their own ones on their phone and I can mash them together. That'll be the way to do it. But thank you for joining me again, Kai and Mikey. It was very, very enjoyable.
What a season.
Yes.
Still plenty to play for.
Still more excitement to come.
Exactly.
And we will obviously start our we'll start our predictions tournament now as well.
What?
Huh?
Our predictions for the playoffs.
Oh, right.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
a separate
yeah.
tournament. Sorry. Is that so that you can win a second
I mean, I
thing?
thought I was speaking a foreign language there. I was just ripped and torn up. I mean, I could finish with 2 trophies and you could both finish with 1 each. So, you know.
Well, right, okay.
Then you could also finish with 2 as well.
Yep.
So.
Let's just finish on that.
Aye, exactly. Thank you for joining us, for listening to the PHFL podcast. And I was going to say, follow us on Twitter if you haven't already.
Aye, I do
at
that.
PHFL podcast. Follow us there.
I think I need to follow us on Twitter.
Aye, how
there
you
we
don't
go.
even follow us on Twitter? That's
What
ridiculous.
chance have we got when one of the co-hosts won't even follow us?
I'm not a big Twitter user. I think I do follow it. Who knows?
Aye. At
I'm very, very busy guy,
PHFL
you know.
podcast. That's what you're looking for. And we're also the PHFL podcast on YouTube. If you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, you can watch it. There's no videos on there just now of our faces. It's just a holding screen with the audio. But when we're allowed to meet, we'll have a camera on us as well, and you can
get to see our beautiful faces.
Well, my beautiful face and the 2 of yours. Yeah. So.
I'll probably need to
Mikey
get
might add a
haircut by then,
haircut by then.
Yeah. Well, thank you
Got
very
a perm
much.
right now.
We will see you. Oh, well, not see you. You'll hear from us next week. Is that how this works? That's how podcasts work, isn't
I
it?
don't know.
That's
We've
it.
not finished this podcast very well.
Exactly. And as we always are in this podcast, an absolute mess. That's us at the PHFL here. Very professional.
Roll the titles. Roll the
As always. Roll them.
Roll the
We'll
credits.
see you next week. Bye.